Chapter 2899. Thus, even if it meant robbing, she had to collect all kinds of zither and bring them to Cleansing Joy Pavilion. However, at this moment, she only needed one glance to confirm the identity of the zither in Xian Yuan's hands. That was the cry of the ninth heaven crane. That was the treasure of Mula Pavilion, cry of the nine heavens crane, that his mother had lost. Even on her deathbed, she had been longing to find it. Great Elder, can you explain this to us? Why is the cry of the ninth heaven crane in your hands? Instead of feeling guilty or afraid, Xian Yuan laughed hysterically. Why is the cry of the ninth heaven crane in my hands? Because it belongs to me in the first place. As he spoke, he took out a reddish-brown pill, carefully peeled off the outer shell, and swallowed it. Only when the pill entered his stomach did he heave a sigh of relief. But since they had already fallen out, Xian Yuan was no longer interested in pretending to be a kind elder. He sneered at Jin Lan. Who does Jin Wei think she is? Isn't she just able to control holy stones? Why can she be so high and mighty just because she's the holy maiden? Why do I have to bow down to her when my cultivation is higher and my talent better than hers? The cry of the ninth heaven crane is clearly the instrument that suits me the best, but just because she's the holy maiden, I have to give it to her? In the cultivation world, the strong are respected. Cleansing Joy Pavilion should be mine, and your mother should kneel at my feet and submit to me. Jin Lan's face was ashen. My mother has always respected you as a senior brother, but I didn't expect you to be so vicious. Could it be? She suddenly thought of something, and her eyes widened in horror. Could it be that you're the reason why my mother died? Xian Yuan's gaze was sinister as he chuckled. Idiot, you've only just realized. His gaze landed on Yun Ruhan. Speaking of which, I should be thanking you. If you hadn't escaped to the northern continent, how would I have had the chance to get rid of Jin Wei and take control of Cleansing Joy Pavilion? Yun Ruhan's pupils constricted. Xian Yuan smiled proudly. I remember now. 12 years ago, the group of people from the floating island asked us to help hunt them down, right? The one who could summon the terrifying Yong was you. Xian Yuan pointed at Yun Ruhan. Then, he pointed at Luo Yu. The unconscious child on your back is him. Yes, I remember now. Although I've grown up, my eyebrows haven't changed much. There was also an old man back then. Luo Yu stared blankly at Yun Ruhan. Phantom Sting said that he was the little prince of some empire. Xian Yuan also said that he had met him 12 years ago. Who was he? Yun Ruhan patted Luo Yu's head. When this is over, eldest senior brother will tell you everything. Luo Yu nodded and did not speak. She continued to look at Xian Yuan. At this moment, Xian Yuan seemed to be immersed in his memories, his expression intoxicated. Obviously, he was very satisfied with his masterpiece 12 years ago. But now, the god-killing witch poison that had accumulated in his body had magnified his emotions, making him reveal a bit of madness. Yun Ruhan, you were really strong 12 years ago. And that old man. We had thousands of soldiers surrounding you, but in the end, you managed to kill us all. More than half of our Cleansing Joy Pavilion's elites were annihilated. But I don't blame you at all. I don't blame the immortals of the floating island who threatened us. Chapter 2900. If it weren't for you guys, how could I have the chance to sneak attack Ma Yanwei from behind and seriously injure her? But this idiot didn't even know who hurt her and died of depression after losing the cry of the ninth heaven crane. Ha ha ha. Ma Yanwei's body couldn't stop trembling. Tears of resentment wetted her eyes and slid down her cheeks. She would never have thought that the truth 12 years ago would be like this. Ma Yanwei suddenly took out the solitary of snow, and shouted. She soared into the air, I'm going to kill you and avenge my mother. Her fingers plucked the strings, and the sound blades flew out like thousands of swords. Xian Yuan wasn't afraid at all. He raised his hand and plucked the cry of the ninth heaven crane. Boom! A huge airwave directly threw Ma Yanwei to the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood and couldn't get up for a long time. Saintess. Saintess, how are you? Great Elder, you've gone too far. How can you attack the Saintess? Xian Yuan sneered, what Saintess? You're just a silly little girl. What qualifications do you have to boss me around? Not to mention that the solitary of snow and snow has a broken string. Even if it's as good as before, do you really put this elder in your eyes with that little auxiliary ability of yours? Dong Ling helped Ma Yanwei up and pointed at Xian Yuan angrily. Xian Yuan, don't be too arrogant. Don't forget that you've now become a blasphemer. Ha ha ha, who said I'm a blasphemer? Xian Yuan laughed even more wildly when he heard this. Do you really think that there's no cure for the god execution witch? Not to mention Ma Yanwei and Yi Yun, even the villagers of Yuanwu village and Lin Xiaomin and the others looked at him in astonishment. With a glance, the crowd realized something. Although the wounds on Xian Yuan's body hadn't healed, the rotten black spots and strange lines had gradually disappeared. When Huang Lang said in disbelief, what does this mean? The god execution witch can be cured? Then what about the blasphemers who were sent to the unclean abyss? What about those blasphemers who became living corpses, and even their souls dissipated in the unclean abyss? Mu Yen sneered, and said indifferently, you still don't understand? There has never been a blasphemer. My junior martial uncle said it very clearly back then. That's not a holy stone at all, but a nightmare stone with a strong poison. As long as it's poison, there's naturally an antidote. I've only been in the northern land for a few days, and I've already found the antidote to the god-slaying witch in the snow demon forest. Mu Leg is an expert in medicine, and they've lived beside the snow demon forest for generations. Do they really not know that the god-slaying witch can be cured? Mu Yen speculates that when the nightmare stone accidentally fell from the Xiuxian continent to the Xiuzhen continent, it should have fallen in the snow demon forest. The appearance of a poison would definitely affect the growth of the surrounding creatures. As for the spiritual plants that had been contaminated by the nightmare stone, they would either die or develop resistance to the poison day after day, year after year, and become the antidote. Since the people of Mula Pavilion had picked up the nightmare stone in the snow demon forest, it was impossible for them not to have discovered the uniqueness of the surrounding spiritual plants. But even though they knew, they chose to hide it. It was clearly an illness that could be cured, but he insisted on treating them as blasphemers and throwing them into the unclean abyss to be consigned to eternal damnation. Why? It was the first time that Lin Xiaomin's family heard about the nightmare stone. The shock and resentment in their hearts far surpassed that of the villagers of Yuanwu village. Chapter 2901. Aren't we the people of the Horton tribe? Didn't he always worship Mu Leg? Why are you doing this to us? Mu Yen slowly said, because they need the power of the nightmare stone to cultivate an invincible army, to consolidate and expand their own forces. And the source of power is this unclean abyss that was formed from countless human lives and piles of bones. Hong Lan jerks her head up, looking at Mu Yen in horror. No, you're talking nonsense. This was impossible. This is impossible. She hated Xian Yuan deeply, but it was only Xian Yuan. She had a deep-rooted sense of belonging and reverence towards the Cleansing Joy Pavilion. In Yuan Yulan's heart, Cleansing Joy Pavilion was a holy land that healed the wounded and healed the dying. It was a pure land in this cold world where the strong preyed on the weak. But now, both Mu Yen and Luo Yunxiao are telling her that all of this is just her fantasy. The Mula Pavilion that she protected and trusted was 100 times dirtier and more disgusting than the outside world that she hated. How could she believe it? How could he accept it? Mu Yen looks at Enlan with pity in her eyes. Now that things have come to this, why do you still need to deceive yourself? Xian Yuan isn't the only one who knows about this. Neither is Cleansing Joy Pavilion or the Horton tribe. The Ning family, the Yun family, the Horton tribe, and even the people around you probably know more than you do. His ice-cold gaze swept over Xian Yuan, Yun Zhaoxing, Elder Qin, Pei Yi, and even Yi Yun, Yi Shuang, Yi Shui, Yi Feng, and Yi Lu. Except for Xian Yuan, the rest of them avoided her gaze out of guilt. Yun Zhaoxing angrily said, Jun Mayan, don't spout venomous slander. It's clear that you're the demons. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Xian Yuan's laughter. So what if we did it? It is an honor for those lowly ants to be able to become a stepping stone for our hegemony. If a small ant died, then so be it. What was there to feel pity about? If they really want to blame someone, they can only blame themselves for being too useless. In the end, they couldn't withstand the blessing of the holy stone. Since they're so weak, don't they deserve to become blasphemers and zombies? Ha ha ha. Awoo. Ah. As soon as Xian Yuan finished speaking, the living corpses in the black fog seemed to have been provoked and roared loudly. That cry no longer belonged to a human. However, it was filled with the unwillingness, resentment, and despair that they had accumulated as humans. This time, Xian Yuan was not as terrified as before. Instead, he held the heaven confusion bell in his left hand and the ninth heaven crane's cry in his right. He looked at Mayan with a cold and greedy gaze. Jun Mayan, do you think that you've won just because you've broken the barrier of the unclean abyss and controlled these living corpses? Mu Yen takes a look around. Although Yun Zhaoxing, Elder Qin, and the others looked angry, after being called out by Xian Yuan, they did not try to refute. Instead, he took out a pill similar to Xuanyuan's, peeled it open, and swallowed it. Even Yi Yun and the others took out their pills after glancing hesitantly at Yuan Shilan. She laughed softly. It seems that not only can this medicine cure the poison of the god-slaying witch, it can also resist the corrosion of the black fog in the unclean abyss. I'm a little curious. Since there's such a medicine, why didn't you use it in the beginning? Oh, I've really asked a stupid question. You didn't use it before, of course, because you didn't want the Saintess of Mu Le Pavilion to know the secret of the Nightmare Stone. Even more so, you didn't want your subordinates to know that the so-called God-bestowed powers in their bodies were actually bestowed by the Nightmare Stone. And one day, these powers will turn into the backlash of the god-slaying witch, and they will also be reduced to blasphemers. Chapter 2902. As soon as she said this, the deacon of Mu Le Pavilion, the armored guards of the Horton tribe, and the trusted cultivators of the Yun and Ning families all changed their expressions and retreated several steps. Jun Mayan, you dare to mislead us. Yun Zhaoxing and Elder Qin were furious. Ye Yun and the other elders of Mu Le Pavilion were also livid. This witch's words clearly wanted to make all the trusted subordinates present to be at odds with her. Only Xian Yuan grinned, revealing a ferocious smile. Jun Mayan, you are really smart. But do you know that smart women don't have a good ending? Do you think anyone will be able to leave this place alive after saying these words? Mayan hooked her lips, smiling wickedly and disdainfully, of course. She raised her hand, and the 7 absolute swords slowly appeared in her palm, pointing at Xian Yuan. Won't we be able to leave alive after killing you? As soon as she said this, the sound of the zither resounded, and the phantom clones appeared. 2 identical Jun Mayan hovered in the air, one holding a sword, the other playing the zither. Strong spiritual power emanated from the zither and the sword, causing everyone's expression to change. Leaving body stage. Luo Yu exclaimed, 6th senior sister has broken through the leaving body stage. Len Yuma said in disbelief, if I remember correctly, it hasn't been long since we broke through the nascent soul stage, right? Yun Ruhan suddenly said in a deep voice, no, not just the leaving body stage. Junior sister's strength has far surpassed the leaving body stage. He now had a half-spirit and half-demon body. Therefore, he could feel that in addition to the spiritual power surging in Mayan's body, there was also a strange and familiar energy flowing wildly. Xian Yuan sneered, leaving body stage. So what if you are at the leaving aperture realm? Do you think you can escape from me just because you have advanced to the leaving body stage? Mayan smiled, seemingly wanting to refute. However, the next moment, the 7 absolute sword suddenly turned into 7 colorful streamers, shooting straight at Xian Yuan. After a quarter of an hour, Yun Zhaoxing and the others, who were leisurely waiting to see Xian Yuan kill Mayan, showed a look of horror. Xian Yuan, who had 2 divine weapons, Cry of the Nine Heavens, and Heaven Confusing Bell, was firmly suppressed by Mayan. One of Xuanyuan's heaven enchanting bells had just been shattered by Chu Moli's arrow. In less than a quarter of an hour, Mu Yan's 7 absolute swords had cut 2 of them into pieces. The valley reverberated with the chaotic sounds of zither, bells, and metals clashing. Every single sound seemed to directly smash onto one's soul, causing one's heartbeat to quicken, blood to boil, and one to be unable to control oneself. More than half of this disturbing music actually comes from the Tian Imo Qin played by the Phantom's many doppelgangers. Xian Yuan, on the other hand, was the one who was completely disturbed. Under the attack of the whistling sword light of the 7 absolute sword, they were in a more difficult situation than when they were besieged by the living corpses. The complexions of Yun Zhaoxing and the others became uglier and uglier. They looked at each other and were about to step forward to help. They realized that the situation today had reached a point where it could no longer be salvaged. Apart from killing the people of the Carefree School and Yuan Wu village, the reputation of the Cleansing Joy Pavilion, the Yun family, and the Ning family would fall to rock bottom. The entire northern continent was about to experience an unprecedented storm. Jun Mayan must die. The Carefree 7 demons must die. However, just as Elder Qin took a step forward, Ling Yusheng and Luo Yu blocked in front of him. Elder Qin sneered, "Ling Yusheng, have you forgotten that I almost cut off your legs?" Chapter 2903. Do you think you can compete with me just because you have one more person? Ling Yusheng's expression was calm as he bent over and touched Xiao Ai's head. Xiao Ai's life was no longer in danger after taking Mu Yan's Yang rejuvenation pill. But her cultivation was too low, and the amount of spiritual power her body could absorb was too little. So even after taking the Yang rejuvenation pill, she was still very weak. At this time, the little girl was crying bitterly on her grandfather's cold body. She felt a pair of hands pressing on her head. Xiao Ai raised her head and met Ling Yusheng's gentle gaze. "Grandpa." "Xiao Ai only has grandpa," Xiao Ai sobbed and looked at Elder Qin with hatred. "Brother deity, I hate them, I hate them. Grandpa and I didn't do anything wrong, why did they do this to us?" Ling Yusheng's eyes were red. "I'm sorry, I'm useless, I couldn't save your grandfather." Xiao Ai shook her head desperately with tears in her eyes. "No, brother and sister are both very good," Ling Yusheng interrupted her. "To make up for it, let us take revenge for your grandfather, okay?" Xiao Ai was startled and looked at Ling Yusheng and Luo Yu. Luo Yu also reached out and stroked the little girl's head. "Evil people have to pay for what they have done. Xiao Ai, open your eyes and watch." After that, both of them stood up and looked at Elder Qin. Elder Qin burst into laughter. "Revenge? Revenge for a lowly mortal who hasn't even reached the stage of fasting? Is there something wrong with the people of the Xiaoyao sect? On top of that, you 2 original leveled bastards want to fight against me? Do you really not know how big the gap is between passing the tribulation and yuanying?" Ling Yusheng didn't even look at him and slowly took out the demon-absorbing needle and the demon-binding silk. Luo Yu raised his hands, and all the grass, trees, and gravel flew towards him. In the blink of an eye, countless puppets of all sizes were formed. Ling Yusheng closed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Shao Qi, are you ready? I'm going to start." Luo Yu grinned, "Of course. Playing tricks." Elder Qin sneered and rose into the air with his sword, slashing it down at Luo Yu. He had never seen Lan Luo Yu's abilities. But he also knew that he could summon the divine beast by Zai. In addition, Xian Yuan was afraid of him. Therefore, Elder Qin was certain that as long as he could kill Luo Yu first, Ling Yusheng would be nothing more than a turtle in a jar. Not to mention that Ling Yusheng, that little bastard, was best at speed. But Lan Luoyu did not run fast. As expected, Elder Qin's sword was already very close. Luo Yu was still in a daze. Her eyes were slightly closed, as if she had no idea that she was about to die. Elder Qin laughed out loud. and the sword in his hand was about to slash down. At this moment, suddenly, everything around them stopped. It was as if a pair of hands had pressed the stop button on everything in the world. Absolute space domain, activated. Elder Qin was astonished. Opposite him, Luo Yu slowly curled her lips into a smile. Two adorable dimples appeared indistinctly. Countless puppets swarmed over from all directions, drowning Elder Qin within. Boom! With a slash of the sword, thousands of puppets were chopped into pieces and scattered in all directions. Elder Qin roared angrily and flew out from the dust. "Two little bastards, I'm going to kill you." However, Elder Qin, who had flown out of the puppet's destruction, did not see the blue sky and white clouds, nor did he see Luo Yu and Ling Yusheng's terrified faces. Chapter 2904. Instead, it was a huge divine beast, Bai Zhe, who was looking at him with its head lowered. Bang! The huge palm slammed down from the sky, directly smashing Elder Qin into the mud. The terrible pressure and surging energy made him spit out a mouthful of blood, and he seemed to hear the sound of bones breaking. Almost at the same time, Ling Yusheng and Luo Yu also fell to the ground, their faces pale, gasping for breath. They had used their ultimate skills many times in a short period of time, and at this time, both their divine sense and spiritual power were completely exhausted. Their dantian and meridians felt like they were on fire, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their hands and feet. At this time, any cultivator who didn't need to eat could kill them with a sword. Moreover, this kind of consumption was disregarding the overdraft and damage of life. But the two looked at each other, then looked at the dying Elder Qin, and couldn't help but smile. They won, they actually won against a crossing tribulation cultivator. After laughing, the two fainted on the ground, losing consciousness. The same battle was taking place in other places in the valley. Qin Jiao and Yun Ruhan faced Yun Zhaoxing and the Yun family cultivators. Lin Yuma and Chu Moli faced Pei Yi and the Iron Guards. In the end, almost every battle ended in a lose-lose situation. And now, the only one that hadn't ended yet was the battle between Mu Yan and Xian Yuan. Xian Yuan was indeed a crossing tribulation cultivator. After being caught unprepared by Mayan in the beginning, he immediately regained his composure, only defending and not attacking. He wants to use his vigorous spiritual power to exhaust Mayan to death. Even if a leaving aperture cultivator was talented and strong, how could he compare with the vigorous spiritual power in his body? Xian Yuan controlled the cry of the nine heavens crane, and the heaven confusing bell, to resist the fierce attacks of the seven absolute swords. He revealed a sinister smile. He wanted to wait, to see Jun Mu Yan's spiritual power being exhausted, struggling at death's door, and finally begging for mercy. On the other side, Ye Yun, who was comforting Yuan Lan, suddenly stood up and took out her pipa. As if they had agreed, Ye Shuang, Ye Shui, Ye Feng, and Ye Yu also took out their weapons and followed Ye Yun, walking towards the 6 people of the Xiaoyao sect. When Huang Lang was the first to react. "You, what are you doing?" Ye Yun said coldly, "Of course it's to kill evil devils." "Are you kidding me? They have just experienced a fierce battle, and now they don't have the strength to fight back. You want to take advantage of them?" The villagers of Yuanwu village and the Lin family all rushed over and stood in front of the Xiaoyao sect. Lin Xiaomin glared at Ye Yun and the others with bloodshot eyes. "Disgusting animals like you are worthy of being called saintess? Are you saying that the great god of the Xiaoyao sect is a demon? Actually, you guys are the real crazy demons. Even if we die, we won't allow you to hurt the Xiaoyao 7. Ye Shuang laughed out loud. "Even if I die? Trash like you dares to clamor in front of us? Heh, then you can all go and die." As Ye Shuang spoke, the phoenix-tailed Kong Ho in her hands suddenly changed, and she flicked it towards Lin Xiaomin and Lin Xiaozong who were at the front. Ah! The impact of the huge sound blade caused the 2 siblings to scream miserably as they were thrown away. Ye Shuang wanted to follow up with another attack and directly kill these 2 eyesores. Suddenly, a stern shout came from behind. Chapter 29:05. Enough. All of you, stop. Don't you think our cleansing joy pavilion has been humiliated enough? Hong Lan's eyes were bloodshot as she slowly descended in front of Yi Yun and the others. The five of them looked at each other with ugly expressions on their faces. In the end, it was Yi Yun who stepped forward and bowed. Saint, these people are blasphemers and demons. If we don't get rid of them, they will cause immeasurable damage to our cleansing joy pavilion. Shut up. Are you lying to yourselves, or do you think I'm a fool? Blasphemers? Do you really think I'll believe you? Taking advantage of others' difficulties and bullying the weak. Tell me, is this something the cleansing joy pavilion should do? Yi Yun frowned and wanted to say something. Ye Shuang could not help but retort, Saint, you're the one who doesn't understand, right? Don't you know that the cleansing joy pavilion has only one rule, and that is to ensure the cleansing joy pavilion's prosperity and peace for generations to come? As long as the cleansing joy pavilion can stand at the peak of the cultivation continent, no matter what methods we use, it's understandable. Saint, you're the one who disappoints us by being so soft-hearted. Yi Yun stopped Ye Shuang, who was about to speak. She looked at Hong Lan's trembling body. She smiled faintly and said, Saintess, in the past, we kept these things from you because you were young and inexperienced. But since you're the cleansing joy pavilion saint, you have to understand that everything we do is for the cleansing joy pavilion and the development of the northern continent. Do you think that your mother, the former saint, Her Highness Yuan Wei, doesn't know about the blasphemers? Hong Lan's eyes widened, and her lips trembled. No, impossible. This is impossible. Yi Yun walked forward step by step. Her posture was respectful, but there was a bewitching and invasive look in her eyes. Saintess, you have to think this through. Regardless of whether they are the unfettered seven devils or the villagers of Yuanwu village, if you let them leave the northern continent, the secret of cleansing the pavilion will be made public. Yi Yun's voice was low and flat, but her words were filled with the power of dreams. From now on, everyone in the cultivation continent will come to steal the saint's stones and accuse the cleansing joy pavilion of harming the innocent. From now on, the cleansing joy pavilion and the northern continent will never have a day of peace. The hard work of so many generations of Mu Le Pavilion's ancestors and your mother's sacrifice will all be for naught. Hong Lan's eyes turned red little by little, and her body, which was holding snow and ice solitude, kept trembling. They were like duckweed in the wind, unable to rely on anything and about to shatter at any moment. Actually, at this moment, the faith she'd held onto since she was young was gradually collapsing under the tremendous changes in the world and Yi Yun's bewitchment. Yi Yun continued, Grand Elder Xianyuan killed your mother. I will definitely report this to my father and seek justice for you. Yi Yun's father's name was Jing Tianyi, and he was the only tribulation transcendence cultivator in the entire northern continent. He was also ranked 5th on the Green Sky ranking. However, many years ago, Jing Tianyi had gone into seclusion to break through to the peak of the tribulation passing stage and had never shown himself again. However, Yi Yun had actually asked Jing Tianyi to step in. Hong Lan could not help but lift her head to look at Yi Yun. Yi Yun smiled at her respectfully. Saint, do you think that we will allow Xianyuan to harm you? However, even if we want to punish Xianyuan, we must do it secretly within the cleansing joy pavilion. How can we let others see us as a joke? Furthermore. Chapter 29:06. Yi Yun's gaze turned to Mu Yan, who was fighting with Xianyuan, and she said faintly, the 7 devils of Xiaoyao's sect will be destroyed, and we will announce their crimes to the world. Young Master Yun Shao will have nowhere to go. When the time comes, Saintess, you will invite him to be a guest of Mu Le Pavilion. Will he still have the right to refuse? Even if young Master Yun Shao is really sad for a few days, as long as Saintess accompanies him every day, comforts him, can he really not be tempted by a peerless beauty like you? Holding the solitary of snow and snow, Hong Lan's hand suddenly trembled. I have never thought of imprisoning young Master Yun Shao in Mu Le Pavilion, then is the Holy Maiden willing to look on helplessly as young Master Yun Shao and that demoness, Jun Mayan, fly together? Saintess, are you really not jealous or hateful? What's more, that Jun Mayan massacred the people of Fusang City, and caused trouble in our northern continent, tarnishing your reputation. And that unclean abyss, who have you seen come out alive, and who can control that black fog? Which part of her behavior is not like that which who has fallen into the evil path? If such a person is with young Master Yun Shao, won't young Master Yun Shao be destroyed? Ye Yun's voice became lower and lower, but it was getting closer and closer to Mu Yan's ears. The low and soft voice was like a spell, entangling Mu Yan's heart and soul, making her eyes more and more blurry. Originally, Mu Yan would not fall into the illusion so easily. But now, her mind was agitated, and her thoughts were chaotic. She was easily controlled by Ye Yun. Slowly, the kindness in her heart was replaced by unwillingness and hatred, and her trust and attachment to Mu Le Pavilion gradually evolved into unscrupulous protection. Mu Yan closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were cold. You are right. Evil must be punished. I cannot let young Master Yun Zhao's illustrious reputation be destroyed, and I cannot let Mu Le Pavilion's 10,000 years of foundation be destroyed in my hands. She slowly looked at the villagers of Yuan Wu village and the unconscious Xiao Yao's 6 sons, and said in a deep voice, "These people must die." A satisfied smile slowly appeared on Ye Yun's face. She took a step back and said, "In that case, Saintess, please punish these demons and blasphemers personally and send them to hell." When the villagers of Yuan Wu village saw Hong Lan coldly walk forward with Snow's Solitude in her hand, the hope that was ignited with great difficulty was shattered once again. At this moment, his heart was filled with hatred, but he was powerless to resist. He could only helplessly close his eyes. The strings of the lonely ice and snow were plucked. But this time, it wasn't a clear and ethereal sound anymore, but a piercingly cold and bleak sound assassination technique. However, the sound of the zither rang out. When Huanglang, Lin Xiaomin, and the others who stood at the front did not feel the pain of their bodies being cut. Instead, it was a short and shrill scream. When Huanglang subconsciously opened his eyes and saw a badly mutilated corpse in front of him, his widened eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Just now, he had been the target of Blue Mist's attack. It was also this strike that caused his last remaining breath to dissipate, and he breathed his last in the end. Grand Elder. Ye Yun's calm and confident expression when she bewitched Hong Lan earlier suddenly cracked. How could this be? How could Grand Elder Xian Yuan die? Didn't he have the upper hand just now? Chapter 2907. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, she saw a snow-white figure slowly walking over and kicking away the already dead Xian Yuan. Jun Mayan. Ye Shuang almost screamed, How could you kill the great elder? Xian Yuan was at the 5th level of passing tribulation, a famous expert on the blue sky list. Even Bo Lan, who was also at the passing tribulation stage, couldn't fight back against Xian Yuan. What about Jun Mayan? She was just a young girl in her early 20s. She had just entered the leaving body stage today, and she was best at supporting. How could she win against the great elder Xian Yuan? Mayan's face was pale, and her breathing was a little unstable. Her spiritual power was intermittent, and it was obvious that she was almost exhausted. But the expression on her face was calm, without a trace of panic. Ye Yun calmed down and sneered, Jun Mayan, I really didn't expect that in leaving body stage cultivator like you would have more spiritual power than the great elder. Everyone could see from the battle between Xian Yuan and Mayan that Xian Yuan wanted to fight a war of attrition. A 1st level leaving body stage versus a 5th level passing tribulation stage. Who had the most spiritual energy and who had the most experience? Even using one's toes to think was obvious. But in a war of attrition, Jun Mayan had completely defeated Xian Yuan. How could they not be shocked? But Ye Yun looked at her like lightning, and the pipa was already in her hands. Even if you beat the great elder, you are now an arrow at the end of its flight, right? Just like your fellow apprentices, Jun Mayan, do you think you can still escape? When they heard this, Ye Shuang and the others recovered from their shock and terror, and their eyes couldn't help but light up. Mayan looked at them with a faint smile. She didn't speak, but raised her hand, and a colorful blanket floated in the air. The moment the blanket appeared, the unconscious Yun Ruhan and the villagers of Yuanwu village were illuminated by a ray of light, and their bodies involuntarily rose into the air and landed on the blanket. The blanket seemed to be only 3 square feet, but with over 100 people on it, there was more than enough space. Moreover, there was a faint layer of halo around them, like a protective shield, protecting everyone within it. Just a moment ago, when Huang Lang thought he was going to die. After stepping on the flying carpet for a long time, he finally came back to his senses. He could not help but bend down to touch the carpet and exclaimed, "This is the rainbow cloud carpet? 7-colored cloud carpet? Isn't that the supreme treasure of Tianguang ruins? The one and only 9th grade flying magic treasure in the world, never for sale, only for rental? Aren't you too ignorant?" In last year's glorious Tianguang competition, Tianguang Ruins had already given this rainbow flowing cloud carpet as a prize for the champion of the finals. Right. The 7-colored cloud carpet has been given to Yi Liangchen by Tianguang Su as a reward. But, why was the rainbow cloud carpet, that should have been awarded to great god Yi in Mayan's hands? However, the current situation was critical. This thought only spun around in everyone's mind before it was thrown to the back of their minds. When Ye Shuang saw that Mu Yan had sent everyone onto the rainbow cloud carpet, she immediately shouted, "This demoness wants to run. Stop her." In a split second, Shuang Shui, Feng Yueyun, and the deacon of Mu Le Pavilion surrounded the rainbow cloud carpet tightly. Seeing that Hong Lan didn't move, Ye Yun immediately reminded, "Holy Maiden, don't forget, if you let these people escape, Mu Le Pavilion will be finished, and young Master Yun Shao will no longer belong to you." Chapter 2908. Ma Lan's gaze flashes because of Ye Yun's words. There's a struggle in her eyes, but it eventually becomes unfathomable. She raises her hand, and the solitary snow and ice makes a buzzing sound, floating in front of her. Her voice is slightly hoarse, as if she's telling Mu Yan, but also convincing herself, "Jun Mu Yan, you shouldn't have come to the northern continent. Otherwise, nothing would have changed, nothing would have happened. I don't want to kill you, I just want everything to go back to how it was before." The mournful sound of the zither resounds. Rays of light emerge from the solitary snow and ice, slowly interweaving and blending in the sky, turning into a barrier, firmly trapping Mu Yan and the rainbow cloud carpet behind her. Ye Shuang grabs the phoenix head harp and laughs proudly, "Jun Mu Yan, I advise you not to struggle. If you surrender earlier, maybe you can die a happy death." Swish! A sword light flies out, stopping Ye Shuang's voice abruptly. She blankly lowers her head, looking at the blood that is constantly shooting out in front of her, her eyes widening little by little. Finally, she falls down unwillingly. Mu Yan's face is pale, and the hand holding the sword is trembling. Her voice is lazy and careless. "Who said I'm going to escape?" The corner of her mouth slowly hooks up into an evil arc. "The principle of my Xiaoyao school has always been that if people don't offend us, we won't offend them. If people offend us, we'll cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. You just wanted to put my fellow apprentices to death. Do you really think that I'll let you go so easily? Won't let us go?" Ye Yun seems to have heard the funniest joke. "Jun Mu Yan, you're like an arrow at the end of its flight. What qualifications do you have to say that you won't let us go?" Mu Yan gives her a meaningful look, and with a wave of her hand, the Tian Mo Qin appears. Her slender fingers rest on the strings, slowly plucking. "Awoo! Awoo!" Countless beast-like roars resound from all directions. The black fog that was just quietly standing around suddenly surges like a wave. A living corpse bursts out of the black fog, sticking out its black rotten tongue and licking its lips. The second, the third, the 10th, the 100th, the densely packed walking corpses seemed to have been summoned, or perhaps they couldn't wait any longer. One by one, they surged out of the black fog. Countless green eyes stared fixedly at Ye Yun and the others, as if they would pounce on them at any time and tear them into pieces. The faces of all the northern continent cultivators instantly turned pale. Both the black fog and the living corpses had been as quiet as chickens, to the point that Ye Yun and the others had almost forgotten about their existence. Jun Mayan, what do you want? Are you going to control the living corpses to kill people? Do you know that this is something that only a demon would do? Aren't you afraid of being reviled by the world? Mu Yen sneered, haven't you already pinned the devil's hat on me? Since that's the case, if I don't do some demonic things and solidify my identity, wouldn't I suffer a great loss? As she spoke, the sound of the zither rang out. The zombies, who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, immediately roared and rushed forward. They had long since lost their consciousness and vitality, leaving only the instinct to devour flesh and blood. In fact, they could no longer be called humans, but shells driven by the pi poison. But the sound of Mu Yan's zither gathered their broken and scattered souls in the unclean abyss. Chapter 2909. These broken souls can't be resurrected, and they can't regain their consciousness. But it can ignite the deepest obsession in their hearts, revenge. Why did they do nothing wrong, yet they were abandoned in the unclean abyss, suffering all kinds of torture, dying in a state that's neither human nor ghost? Why did the people they trusted and respected so piously use them, and then kick them away after using them? They were supposed to be ordinary cultivators, with happy families, wives, children, and parents. But because of the word blasphemer, their lives were ruined, and they were sent to the endless abyss of hell? But what about these high and mighty culprits? They had high beds, soft pillows, and great power in their hands. Stepping on their piles of corpses to reach the pinnacle of power? Why? 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 They want revenge. Even if they're already beyond redemption, they still want to drag these beasts who killed them into the bottomless abyss. Let me go, don't bite me. Don't come over. I don't want to become a blasphemer, I beg you to let me go, Ye Yun's complexion is deathly pale, forcing back the living corpses again and again, but more and more of them come pouring in. She grits her teeth and raises her hand to throw out a talisman. The talisman burns in the air, disappearing in a flash, not attracting anyone's attention. Being surrounded by the living corpses, Hong Lan is also in a difficult situation. She's a powerful auxiliary cultivator, but she's not good at fighting. Hong Lan angrily says, Jun Mayan, you used the living corpses to kill people, how is this any different from evil? The people here are all innocent deacons of Mu Le Pavilion. Like me, they don't know the truth about blasphemers. Can your conscience be at ease if you kill them? Mayan looks at her mockingly. The villagers of Yuan Wu village are innocent, the holy maiden wants to kill them, can your conscience be at ease? Hong Lan grits her teeth, I didn't use the living corpses, nor did I practice that evil path. Heh. Mayan sneers, unfortunately, in my eyes, the human heart is much uglier than the living corpses and evil. Hong Lan stares blankly, the expression in her eyes fluctuating. But before she can speak, a sword light flies over like a meteor from the horizon. Sensing the frightening spiritual power surging in the air, Mayan's complexion sinks, and her fingers slowly press down on the Tian Mo Qin. Ning Su slowly descends in front of Mu Yan, his gaze unblinkingly falling on her. The stagnant and gloomy atmosphere between the two slowly changed, as if the sea had turned into mulberry fields. A few months ago, this person was still her big brother Ning, who she had a good impression of. Although they had met by chance, they had become good friends at first sight. Now, they were in a situation where they couldn't coexist. Mu Yan. Ning Su looked at the black fog surrounding them and slowly closed his eyes. In a hoarse voice, he said, answer a question for me. What's your relationship with Jun Xiuan? Mayan curls her lips into a smile, and with a clear voice, she enunciates each word, Jun Shiyuan is my father, and Ning Yanxin is my mother. Didn't you already know this, Ning Su? Ning Su's pupils suddenly contracted. He tightened his grip on the demon-slaying sword. Young Master Suicide. A deep voice rang out beside Ning Su. I really didn't expect that the little demoness that Jun Shiyuan and Miss Ning were under all those years ago would really survive. 20 years later, she actually still came to harm my northern continent. Mayan's gaze turns to the side. She sees a tall and thin man with a refined face standing beside Ning Su. This person's cultivation is profound, far surpassing Xian Yuan's. Chapter 29:10. Mu Yan's gaze shifted to the side. She saw a tall and thin man with an elegant face standing beside Ning Su. This person's cultivation was profound, far surpassing Xian Yuan's. The silver-gray robe he wore was embroidered with Mu Lu Pavilion's emblem. Father. Ye Yun happily rushed to the man's side, crying tears of joy, "You're finally here. My daughter almost died at the hands of this devil woman." This person was the northern continent's only tribulation-passing cultivator, as well as Mu Lu Pavilion's headmaster, Jing Tianyi. Jing Tianyi patted Ye Yun's hand, indicating for her to calm down. Since father is here, I will never allow the evil demons to do evil again. His gaze shifted to Elder Qin, Yun Zhaoxing, and Pei Yi, who were already on the verge of death. He then looked at the dead Xian Yuan and Ye Shuang, slowly sighing. Master Jueming, it's just as you said, the evil demons are too dangerous. The evil path is greedy and reckless, unscrupulous. Even a few young juniors can cause such a great disaster. If we can't get rid of them here today, I'm afraid that the entire Xiuzhen continent will fall into danger. How about you and I join hands and let these demons and monsters never reincarnate? Ning Su, who had always taken it as his duty to exterminate the evil demons and never showed mercy to them, was struggling fiercely at this moment. In the end, he couldn't bear it. For so many years, he had been living like a machine that slaughtered demons. It wasn't easy to meet Mu Yan, a person he wanted to protect, a person he wanted to find normal feelings for. Every time he interacted with Mu Yan, it was as if he had returned to the past. That happy, joyful life that he longed to maintain for the rest of his life. However, the person who could bring him a peaceful and happy life chose to give herself to the evil demons. Chose to betray the Ning family. His peaceful life came crashing down, and the beliefs he held on to crumbled inch by inch. He hated Jun Shiyuan. But he hated Ning Yanxin even more. Why did she pull him out of the cold and lonely abyss, only to kick him back into an even more hopeless hell? These years, he went around in circles, living like a walking corpse. It wasn't easy to meet Jun Muyen. This girl was so much younger than Ning Yanxin, and so much more radiant. Unlike Ning Yanxin, she couldn't take care of him, protect him, or pull him out of the abyss. However, Ning Su could turn around and protect her. He poured all his regrets and feelings for Ning Yanxin into her. But why? Why is Jun Mayan Jun Shiyuan's daughter? Why would even Jun Mayan defend the demon race? The veins in Ning Su's hand, which was holding the demon-slaying sword, bulged and trembled slightly. After a long while, he said in a hoarse voice, "Hand over Yun Ruhan and follow me back to the floating island, and I'll spare your lives." Jing Tianyi frowned and wanted to say something. But when he thought of Ning Su's powerful strength, he still endured it in the end. Ye Yun couldn't restrain herself and anxiously said, "Father, how can we let Jun Mayan and these blasphemers off?" Jing Tianyi pressed Ye Yun down and signaled her not to speak. Ning Su doesn't even spare a glance at Ye Yun and Jing Tianyi. His crimson eyes are firmly fixed on the girl in front of him. "Jun Mayan, this is the last chance I'm giving you." At this time, Mayan's complexion is pale without a trace of blood. The spiritual power in her body has already been completely consumed when she used the zither to drive the living corpse. Hearing Ning Su's words, she hooks up her lips and smiles. She concisely spits out 3 words, "I refuse." Chapter 29:11. 1 second to remember love net, providing you with wonderful reading. Whoosh. Countless cracks suddenly appeared on the ground. A terrifying atmosphere of coercion permeated the air, causing the souls of all the cultivators present to scatter. Those with low cultivation and weak minds directly vomited blood and fainted. Jing Tianyi protected Yi Yun and retreated a few steps before stopping, still in a state of shock. Then, looking at the murderous intent in Ning Su's eyes, he couldn't help but smile. Ning Su's eyes were red as if they were about to shed tears of blood. His voice was low and hoarse, like a whine. Why? Why do you all have to force me? Jun Mayan, I protected you like that, why do you still have to force me to kill you? With that, the demon-slaying sword unsheathed itself. A gale swept up the gravel and grass on the ground, carrying with it an earth-shattering sword aura as it whistled towards Mayan. This was a real killing move. And it was a killing move that even a tribulation-passing cultivator couldn't block. However, the hurricane hadn't reached them yet. Countless silver runes began to appear in the sky. These talisman markings were dense and complicated to the point a single glance would cause one's head to go dizzy. As the hurricane swept over, all the silver runes lit up one by one. In the blink of an eye, they formed a large formation, enveloping Mayan and the rainbow cloud carpet. No, not just the rainbow cloud carpet. Even the black fog of the unclean abyss and the living corpses inside were sucked in by the formation's power, gradually enveloped within. This is a transportation formation. Hong Lan exclaimed, her eyes full of shock. She actually drew a transportation formation in the air. In Cleansing Joy Pavilion, Hong Lan's attainments in formations were the highest. That was why she was the only one in control of the 10,000 Torrents formation. But Hong Lan never thought that there would be someone in this world who could draw such a huge and complicated formation in the air. The most frightening thing was that this complicated transportation formation consumed a large amount of spiritual power, and it couldn't be completed in a short time. When did Jun Mayan draw it? There was only one possibility. She had been drawing this teleportation formation while she was fighting Xian Yuan. She had long thought that the northern continent wouldn't let them go, and Ning Su wouldn't let them go. Therefore, Jun Mayan and Xian Yuan fought a protracted battle. It was not because he would lose to Xian Yuan in terms of battle techniques. It was also not because he wanted to slowly exhaust Xian Yuan and humiliate him. Instead, while she was fighting, she was also expending a large amount of spiritual power to draw a large-scale teleportation array. That was a teleportation array that could transport hundreds of people and tens of thousands of living corpses. How was it possible for someone to draw in the air without any medium in the midst of battle? At the thought of this possibility, Yuan Shilan was about to go crazy. In the past, she had prided herself on her intelligence and omniscience. But that pride, when placed in front of Jun Mayan, is like a joke. Ning Su was even crazier than Hong Lan. The hurricane that was mixed with sword chi whistled past, but when the dust settled, there was nothing in front of them. Whether it was the blood-stained girl in white or the person in the seven-colored cloud carpet, they had both disappeared without a trace. June. Moo. Face. A furious roar filled with pain and madness that bordered on despair resounded between heaven and earth. Do you think you can escape? Even if I have to go to heaven or hell, I will definitely kill you in my hands. Jing Tianyi waited for Ning Su to calm down a little before he dared to step forward. Chapter 29:12. Young Master Destiny, although the unfettered 7 demons escaped from the northern continent, they can't run away. As long as they are still on the Xiuzhen continent, we don't have to worry about not being able to kill them. The most important thing now is to publicize the crimes of these 7 demons and put a bounty on their heads. With all the cultivators on the continent as our eyes, so what if they escape to the ends of the earth? In the end, they will still be trapped and unable to escape. Ning Su slowly closed his eyes. His hand holding the demon-slaying sword slowly stopped trembling. When he opened his eyes again, they were no longer as crazed as before. His face was as cold as ice, his expression calm and indifferent. It was as if he had returned to the young Master Destiny before he met Mu Yen. Then I'll have to trouble Sect Master Jing to spread the name of young Master Destiny Ning Su to the world. Unfettered Sex Yun Ruhan has used crafty tricks and defied the laws of nature. She has possessed the body of another to be reborn. She is an unpardonable evil cultivator and should be punished. Unfettered Sex Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Ling Yuma, Ling Yusheng, and Lan Luoyu of the unfettered sect are helping the wicked and harboring the evil. They should be punished. Unfettered Sex Jun Mu Yen manipulated the demonic energy of the uncleansed abyss, manipulated the corpse puppets, and protected the evil. Heaven and earth cannot tolerate such actions. Punish. First host, first host. Wake up. Mu Yen opened her eyes absent-mindedly and only realized she was in the Heaven Light ruins when she heard a familiar voice. Little Tian? Mu Yen touched her head and forced herself to stand up. Seeing her surroundings clearly, she was stunned. Dreamy Cloud Lake? Isn't this Dreamy Cloud Lake? Little Tian, why am I here? As soon as she finished speaking, a handsome youth appeared in front of her. He was wearing strange clothes and had clean and refreshing short hair. Seeing Mu Yen look over, he immediately jumped into her arms happily. First host, little Tian missed you. Since his master was not here, he could finally transform into his true form and act spoiled to the first host. He. Mu Yen rubs his soft and furry head, and then asks the same question again. I also don't know why. Little Tian was also confused. Master suddenly sent me a message with his divine sense, saying that the core authority of the Dreamy Cloud Swampland will be temporarily given to you. Your master? Mayan's eyebrows jump. Wasn't Xiaotian's master the mysterious man who could trigger the 3 lives 1 heart seal? There was a high chance that he was her fiancé. But why did he open up the Dreamy Cloud Swampland to him? Lil Tian shook his head. I've also asked Master, but after Master opened the Dreamy Cloud Swampland's authority, he completely disappeared. I can't contact little Tian no matter how hard I try. Mu Yen frowns. He had a bad feeling about this. Oh right, first host, little Tian forcefully dragged you into the Tianguang ruins because he has something to tell you. Lil Tian seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said anxiously. Mayan stares blankly, what is it? Lil Tian puffed up his cheeks and said indignantly, someone in the Tianguang ruins has released news that is unfavorable to the first host. Unfavorable news? Lil Tian nodded, his fair and slender fingers tapping on the table in the middle of the Dreamy Cloud Swampland. Rays of light actually flashed on the table. Immediately after, a scene appeared before Mayan's eyes. There was an announcement made through the Tianguang ruins. There was a video broadcast in the Reincarnation Square. There was a notice posted outside the doors of bustling shops. Chapter 29:13. And the contents of these announcements were almost the same. Almost all of them were talking about one thing: the unfettered 7 devils should be executed. Xiaotian pounded the table, his face full of annoyance. It's all my fault. I was too bored in Tianguang ruins recently, so I didn't pay much attention. By the time I found out, the news had already spread throughout Tianguang ruins. Mu Yen clearly hadn't stayed in the Dreamy Cloud Lake for a long time, nor had she come into contact with the management authority of Tianguang ruins. But looking at all this, her mind inexplicably gave birth to a sense of familiarity. It was as if controlling everything in the Dreamy Cloud Lake and managing Tianguang ruins was deeply engraved in her instinct. She reached out her hand and clicked on one of the light screens in the Reincarnation Square. Her divine sense moved, and the discussion of the people in the square came into her ears. No, I don't believe it. The unfettered 7 devils have always been upright, and they only kill evil people. How can they be evil? Bah! What upright? I think it's more like killing people like flies. There are thousands of lives in Fusang City, and they can kill them all. If they are not evil, then what are they? Thousands of lives? Really? Oh, these words were spread by the inner disciples of the Killing Luo sect. How can it be fake? Don't tell me you haven't heard of June Mayan saying, one person massacring a city? I, the jade-faced Wolf King, have traveled the world for so many years, and I have never seen such a crazy woman. I've heard about what happened in Fusang City. It can't be blamed on Great God June and the unfettered 7 devils. I heard that many female cultivators were captured and brought to Fusang City, and it was the unfettered 7 devils who rescued them. The men in Fusang City are worse than pigs and dogs. Why can't Great God June slaughter them? The people in the square were quarreling. Some believed in the unfettered 7 devils, and some scolded them as evil. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the crowd. Look, look! Dr. Lu Mengguang is here. Oh my God, the Valley Master of the immortal Dr. Wei Baolin is also here. Isn't that the first assistant of the spiritual Wood sect, Luo Fengting? These big shots who usually live in seclusion and have to line up to meet, why are they all here in Tianguang ruins today? Compared to those almighty beings who were famous for their battles, these doctors and auxiliary cultivators were what everyone longed to see and what they desired the most. Therefore, when they saw these people, everyone was inexplicably excited. Some people even wanted to rush up, hoping to make an appointment to see a doctor. However, Lu Mengguang and the others' expressions were extremely solemn. They pushed through the crowd and stood on the high platform of the Reincarnation Square. Lu Mengguang took a step forward and said in a clear voice, as everyone knows, although I'm not from the northern land, I'm a disciple of the Cleansing Joy Pavilion. All along, I've held great respect for the Cleansing Joy Pavilion. I believe that all the people in the world who have received treatment from Mu Lu Pavilion are like this. However, today, I heard that my sect, the Cleansing Joy Pavilion, suffered an enormous humiliation. As soon as he said this, the people below asked curiously, what's going on? The Mu Lu Pavilion has always stood aloof from worldly affairs and is also very powerful. Who can humiliate the Mu Lu Pavilion? Lu Mengguang cleared his throat and said, I'm afraid you don't know that many years ago, my Cleansing Lu Pavilion's unique skill was stolen along with the divine artifact of the pavilion, the cry of the 9 heavens cranes. The Cleansing Lu Pavilion tracked it for several years, but couldn't find it no matter what. However, just a few days ago, my Cleansing Lu Pavilion finally found traces of these 2 things. Chapter 29:14. This person stole the inheritance and divine weapon a long time ago, and practiced in secret, making a name for herself in the world. Everyone knows that Mu Lu Pavilion has always been aloof from worldly affairs, indifferent to fame and fortune. After discovering this person, we didn't want to make things difficult for her, and only wanted to take back what belonged to Mu Lu Pavilion. But who would have thought that this person not only refused to return it, but even colluded with her fellow disciples to injure countless elites of Mu Lu Pavilion, injuring the saintess, and even killing a tribulation-passing elder and a saintess. The Reincarnation Square fell into a moment of silence, then completely exploded. Killing a tribulation-passing elder? Is this a joke? Who is so ruthless? Daring to be so arrogant in the northern land, didn't they say that even the experts on the green sky list don't dare to trespass in the northern land? Lu Mengguang, this person is sinister, cunning, and extremely shrewd. Our Mu Lu Pavilion wanted to spare her life out of goodwill, but we were fooled by her, and in the end, she escaped. But if she thinks that she can escape unscathed after offending our Mu Lu Pavilion and slaughtering so many innocent lives, then she is gravely mistaken. Even if we have to exhaust the entire Horton tribe, even if we have to exhaust the last follower of Mu Lu Pavilion, we must make this evil thief pay a painful price. Dr. Lu, who is this person? Lu Mengguang's eyes are red, his face filled with righteous indignation, and he says loudly, this person is murderous god monarch Mu Yen. Whoosh! Although some people have already guessed it. Hearing Lu Mengguang's answer, a storm is set off in the square. June Mu Yen, it's June Mu Yen again. Could it be that the reason she could become the most powerful assistant master of the younger generation, and have such powerful fighting strength, is because she stole Mu Lu Pavilion's inheritance and divine weapon? Is there a need to say it? Otherwise, How could she have made such a resounding reputation at such a young age? Stealing other people's things and not returning them, and still being so arrogant, this woman is really shameless. Back in the Woodfern's secret territory, didn't she wantonly steal other people's treasures? This woman's vicious heart, I have long seen through it. Lu Mengguang raises his hand and presses it down. Lu Mengguang, swear here today that anyone who stands on the side of Jun Mayan and the unfettered 7 devils will be my, Lu Mengguang's, enemy until death. Even a fool would know the consequences of becoming the enemy of a doctor. Just as Lu Mengguang finished speaking, Luo Fengting took a step forward and said coldly, the matriarch of the Purple Cloud Domains Yun clan, Xian Menglan, is my close friend. 12 years ago, her only son disappeared. Who would have known that her son hadn't gone missing at all, but had been possessed by Yun Ruhan of the unfettered 7 demons? My good friend, Menglan, was killed by that bastard. This enmity is irreconcilable. I swear that I'll personally kill that dog Yun Ruhan and avenge my good friend. If anyone dares to protect the unfettered 7 devils, they will be going against my spiritual Wood sect. Wei Baolin was next. As everyone knows, my wife is the eldest daughter of the Ning family. Now, the unfettered 7 devils have invaded the northern continent and committed crimes. They even killed my wife's father, Ning Jinxiu. This kind of evil demon, everyone has the right to punish them. I, Wei, also hereby vow to be irreconcilable with the unfettered 7 devils. If anyone dares to protect them, don't blame my immortal Dr. Valley for not saving them when the time comes. Every one of these 3 people's statements was powerful and resonant. It was as if 3 thunderbolts had been thrown into the Tianguang ruins. Chapter 29:15. When they heard that young Master Fate, the Cleansing Joy Pavilion, the Yun family, and the Ning family had teamed up to hunt them down, many were still skeptical. But when they heard Lu Mengguang and the other 2's detailed descriptions, many unwittingly believed them. Didn't I say that young Master Fate, Ning Su, is an upright and selfless gentleman? Ever since he became famous, he's been killing demons and saving ordinary cultivators. If he says that the unfettered 7 demons are demonic cultivators, then they must be. I didn't think that the unfettered 7 demons are such deranged beasts. To think that I worshipped Jun Mayan so much, I must have been blind. Bah! There was also the city-toppling army, who weakly defended themselves. Great God, Jun isn't that kind of person, don't slander him. However, their voices were too soft and weak, and were quickly suppressed by the huge sound waves. And the most arrogant and proud of them was the Liangchen army. Serves them right. Let them slander our great God Yi, now the tables have turned, right? Ha, one person slaughtering a city, only great God Jun Ba. The number 1 young cultivator has to be our great God Yi, okay? Jun Mayan is nothing. Is she the Lord of 6 stars? Inherited the chaotic tower? Is she the one and only disciple of the Saint Medicine King? She's just a little girl who's still wet behind the ears, looking a bit like a fox and daring to call herself a great god. How shameless. When the 6 stars slaughtering the list had just ended, the chaotic tower didn't have much of a reputation. But as time passed, more and more people paid crystals through the Dragon Soaring Academy to enter the chaotic tower. When they discovered that their cultivation, mind, and even their primordial spirits were rapidly improving, they were shocked. The chaotic tower was a treasure that made people crazier than the 6 stars pagoda. And this chaotic tower was known by many in the Dragon Soaring Academy. It was a reward for the Lord of 6 stars, Yi Liangchen. But those who wanted to snatch the chaotic tower couldn't find Yi Liangchen, so they could only give up. To the Liangchen army, Yi Liangchen was their god, their faith. But in this period of time, Jun Mayan's name kept appearing, even suppressing great god Yi. How could they endure this? Alright, now that Jun Mayan failed, they could finally hold their heads up high. In the dreamy cloud swampland, Mu Yen waved her hand to turn off the image and slightly narrowed her eyes. Little Sky clenched her fists tightly, her cheeks puffing up like white steamed buns. First host, Little Sky will throw this bunch of gossipy women out of the Tianguang ruins. In the future, if anyone dares to say anything bad about you, Little Tian will give them a lightning strike as punishment. Let's see if they still dare to say anything. Mayan smiles and shakes her head. She reaches out to pinch Xiao Tian's bulging cheeks. It's no use, Tianguang ruins is just one of the ways they spread this news. Even if you chased them out of Tianguang ruins, they would still have other ways to let the world know. Instead, it exposed our relationship. Xiao Tian, are we just going to let these bastards frame you? Mu Yan took a deep breath, and a deep weariness surged in her heart. During this period of time, she had not rested for even a moment. From the beginning to the end, he had been fighting, running, and fighting non-stop. Perhaps, what made her feel even more uncomfortable and tired was, she had heard about her father and mother's sad past. It was the painful and pitiful past of eldest senior brother and Xiao Qi. Or perhaps, it was the break with Ning Su that made it hard for her to calm down. Chapter 29:16. She had once really regarded Ning Su as her brother, as a family member who felt like old friends at first sight. This is the first time Xiao Tian has seen Mu Yan reveal such a pale and weak expression. He can't help but be startled, host, however, before he could ask the question. Mu Yan's body suddenly swayed and disappeared from the Tianguang ruins. First host. Little Tian looked at the empty dreamy cloud swampland and anxiously stamped his feet. Why did he leave? There's one more important thing I haven't told you yet. As he muttered, he slammed his hand on the table. Soon, an image appeared in midair. That was Dragon Soaring Academy. As the most prestigious academy in the entire cultivation world, this was supposed to be the most tranquil and sacred place. However, in the video, it was already a river of blood. The corpses of countless students and teachers lay in pools of blood. A huge barrier enveloped the entire Dragon Ascension Academy, allowing entry but not exit. Densely packed cultivators dressed in the military uniform of the Dingwa Manor gathered around the Dragon Ascension Academy, reaping one life after another. Frowning, Xiao Tian paced back and forth anxiously in the dreamy cloud swampland. What to do, what to do? Master isn't here and I don't have enough energy, so I can't drag the first host into the Tianguang ruins a second time. First host, you mustn't go to Dragon Soaring Academy. In reality, Mayan opens her eyes and feels that her body is weak. He didn't feel anything in the Tianguang ruins. However, now that she was back in her fleshly body, she knew that the injuries she had sustained in the northern continent were far from healed. His dantian was empty, and his meridians felt like they were on fire. Most importantly, her head felt like it was about to explode. It was so painful that she almost moaned. Mu Yan knew that it was because she had forcefully overdrawn her spiritual energy and primordial spirit to draw the giant transmission array. However, she had no choice. It wouldn't be difficult to escape from the northern continent, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to escape with his fellow disciples. The difficult part was to bring the villagers of Yuanwu village, Lin Xiaomin's family, and the living corpses in the unclean abyss out of the northern continent. However, she had to abandon these people and watch as they lost their lives at the hands of Mu Legu. The living corpses returned to the sunless unclean abyss. She couldn't do it either. Madam Enchantress. Madam Enchantress, you're awake. Everyone, come quickly. Fairy sister is awake. The noise in her ears makes Mu Yan knit her brows and force herself to open her eyes. He saw the concerned gazes of the villagers of Yuanwu village and the Lin family. Yun Ruhan and the others were sleeping beside her. The black fog and the living corpses obediently hid outside the rainbow cloud carpet. From time to time, a terrifying head popped out of the black fog, glanced at her, and quickly shrank back. Mu Yan presses her head. How long did I sleep? Great God June, you've been asleep for 3 days. Lin Xiaomin wiped her with a wet handkerchief and said carefully, what do you think? Do you feel any better? Mayan nods and reaches out to take the pulse of the 6 fellow apprentices. After confirming that they are only unconscious from exhaustion, she breathes a sigh of relief. She took out a young returning pill and gave it to each of them. In a situation where the body's spiritual energy was depleted, the effects of the young returning pill were extremely slow. However, at this time, Mu Yan's dantian was dried up, and her sea of knowledge was empty. Let alone stroking the Tian Mo Chin to heal her injuries, even her divine sense was barely able to enter and exit the space. Therefore, letting her fellow apprentices take the young returning pill was better than nothing. Chapter 29:17. After feeding her the elixir, Mu Yan discovered that everyone around her was burning with anxiety, yet hesitant to speak. She couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" I'll say it." When Huanglang stepped forward and said, "Miss June, just now, about an hour ago, we met a group of cultivators. After seeing the 7-colored cloud carpet, they pointed a few times, seemingly wanting to come over, but quickly flew away." Lin Xiaomin added, "In the past few days, we tried to fly in remote jungles. In the meantime, we also disguised ourselves and went to the town to inquire about information, and then saw Great God June's order to kill you. The bounty was extremely high. I'm afraid those people." Mu Yan understood. The group of people they met would definitely go to inform and collect the bounty. It wouldn't be long before Mu Leg and Ning Su caught up. "Madam Enchantress, what should we do? The world is so big, is there no place for us anymore? It's all our fault, fairy doctor. If you didn't want to save us, you wouldn't have." Mu Yan pressed her head, raising her hand to signal them to stop talking. "We'll go to the Divine Elephant City in the eastern continent of Xian Realm." Meeting everyone's uneasy gaze, her voice was indescribably calm and certain. "Don't worry, since I brought you out, I'm sure I can let you live." Her face was pale, her breath weak, and there wasn't even a bit of spiritual power in her body. Everyone on the 7-colored cloud carpet could clearly see how bad her situation was. But strangely, after she said this, everyone's heart calmed down. As if, as long as this girl said it, it would definitely come true. Divine Elephant City. The busiest inn was currently filled with cultivators coming and going. Their eyes would occasionally look in the direction of Dragon Soaring Academy. Strange, Dragon Soaring Academy seems to have been closed for a long time this time. It's been almost half a month, and they still don't let people in? Yeah. And it's so strange, even if the 3 academies had an assessment in the past, everyone was allowed to go in and watch. Could it be that something has happened to him? Some people also talked about the rumors about the Xiaoyao 7. I didn't expect them to be this kind of people. Unfortunately, this place was different from the Tianguang ruins. The Unfettered 7 could be said to have made their name in Divine Elephant City. If the Xiaoyao 7 had the most fans, it would definitely be the Azure Blue World and the Divine Elephant City. Soon, someone slammed the table and stood up, cursing loudly, "Bah! Shut the fuck up. I'll fucking fight whoever dares to defame the Xiaoyao 7. That's right. Don't we know who the Xiaoyao 7 masters are? And who the Great God June is? Do you believe that I will destroy all of you if your mouths are not clean?" This was said by young master fate killer, Ning Su. How could it be wrong? What happened to Ning Su? Ning Su can slander my idol as a demon. Tell him to scram, okay? My Qingqing army will never betray the June family. By the way, I was wondering why you looked so familiar. Aren't you one of Yap's supporters? Your Liangchen army is too fucking disgusting. Your idol hasn't done anything during this period of time, and now you're slandering our god June? How shameless. This sentence directly exploded the hornet's nest. Yi Liangchen's fans couldn't take it anymore. Chapter 29:18. 1 second. Remember, Love Net, providing you with wonderful reading. Keep your fucking mouth clean for me. June Mayan's own perverse actions, doing such a shameful thing, what does it have to do with our great god Yi? Pulling our great god Yi out, are you worthy? Today, you either kneel down and apologize to our great God Yi, or don't even think about leaving. Dao your mother." Before the cursing had finished, a loud rumble could be heard from the direction of Longting Academy. The ground and the inn's houses shook, followed by a thick, nauseating smell of blood wafting through the air. What's wrong? What happened? The quarreling in the inn stopped all of a sudden. Everyone squeezed outside to see what was going on. When they came out, they found that almost all the cultivators in Divine Elephant City had rushed to the plaza in the center of the city. This plaza faced the main gate of the Academy's Flying Dragon City. In the past, when millions of people gathered at the Deer Cry banquet, they entered from here. However, now that gate, which was supposed to be grand and imposing, had already collapsed. Blood flowed out from the rubble. Occasionally, it was accompanied by intermittent groans of pain and insolent laughter. Outside the collapsed gate, a badly mangled figure fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Immediately after, a sweet and coquettish voice came from inside. He, Elder Kong, I've already advised you not to struggle on your deathbed. Why don't you listen to this servant? This servant originally admired your illustrious reputation, and wanted to recruit you under the Marquis's banner, and then fly together with you. I didn't expect you to be so unappreciative, making this servant have no choice but to be ruthless. Seeing you in such a miserable state, this servant's heart aches terribly. Accompanying this sweet and coquettish figure, a barefoot, strangely dressed female cultivator gracefully walked out from inside. Her clothes were brightly colored, and from afar, she looked like a peacock. But these colors were not dyed in different colors on the same piece of cloth, but were pieced together by a variety of colorful cloth. Not only was the stitching not seamless, it instead split open, revealing the creamy white skin and charming curves inside. The woman's appearance couldn't be considered very beautiful. But between every frown and smile, there was an unparalleled romantic charm. Her voice seemed to be able to seep into one's heart. Many of the male cultivators present felt their legs turn to jelly the moment they saw him, and they stared blankly. However, someone soon shouted, She's Miao Yu. He was the sect master of the He sect. She is also the only female practitioner in the top 10 of the Green Sky Roll. As soon as these words came out, the male cultivators, whose hearts were beating like drums, immediately shivered and almost knelt on the ground in fright. The name of He sect master, Miao Yu, could be said to be known by everyone. It was not only because her cultivation was high and her whereabouts were a mystery. It was also because she had always been unreasonable and did things her own way. Although he did not cultivate the evil devil Dao, his actions were more ruthless and treacherous than the evil devil Dao. When Miao Yu roamed the pugilistic world, he would often take a liking to handsome men or men with extraordinary bearings. It was one thing for these men to submit. If they refused, Miao Yu wouldn't force himself on them. Instead, he would just kill them. Thus, the number of young geniuses who had died at Miao Yu's hands over the past few decades could be said to be innumerable. But unfortunately, this person's cultivation was too high, and the confidants that she cultivated were all more sinister and cunning than the other. Thus, even though the elders of these young geniuses hated her to the core, they couldn't do anything to her. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 29-19. Remember Love Net, providing you with exciting reading. But soon, these people recovered from the fear of recognizing Miao Yu. Everyone's gaze fell on the man who was on the verge of collapsing. Miao Yu had just called him Elder Kong. Everyone's eyes narrowed. Kong. Elder Kong Yuanzhou? How could this be? Kong Yuanzhou is an expert ranked 8th on the Azure Sky Roll. His ranking is even higher than Miao Yu's. How could he be so badly injured? What happened in Dragon Ascension Academy? As they were discussing, a group of people filed out of Dragon Ascension Academy. The leader was a tall and skinny middle-aged man. He wore a black robe, and his entire body, hands, and neck were wrapped tightly. only a noble and domineering face could be seen. All the cultivators in Divine Elephant City gasped at the sight of that person. The arrogant Miao Yu immediately turned around and bowed. "Greetings, Lord Marquis. It's the Dingwa Marquis, Chu Xinyan." "Shoo, do you want to die? How dare you call the Lord Marquis by his name? Why is the Dingwa Marquis here?" The onlookers were even more shocked and confused. But with Chu Xinyan's reputation, they didn't dare to discuss loudly. They could only whisper. Chu Xinyan walked up to Kong Yuanzhou and slowly adjusted the wrinkles on his sleeves. "Elder Kong, what do you think? Have you thought it through? If you still refuse to come to your senses, don't blame me for making the 1,000-year foundation of Dragon Ascension disappear from the cultivation continent." Kong Yuanzhou closed his eyes, hiding the humiliation and despair in them. When he opened his eyes again, he was determined to die. "I'll say it again. The 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Pagoda both belong to the Lord of 6 Stars. How do you want me to hand them over to you?" Chu Xinyan narrowed his eyes. "Very well, then we're back to the old question. Where is the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangchen?" "I don't know." "Then what about my unfilial son, Chu Tianyu?" Kong Yuanzhou said, "I don't understand what the Lord Marquis is talking about. Chu Tianyu has not returned to Longting since he left the Deer Cry banquet." Chu Xinyan sneered, a ruthless aura surging in his eyes. "To be honest, after wasting half a month, this Marquis's patience has been exhausted. Kong Yuanzhou, do you think that someone will come to save Longting just because you broke the barrier? Today, I'll let you witness with your own eyes how Longting will perish right before your eyes." As he spoke, Chu Xinyan waved his hand and said calmly, "Then let's kill a round first to refresh Elder Kong's spirit." As soon as he finished speaking, the walls of Flying Dragon City collapsed with a loud bang. Seeing the scene inside, the eyes of all the cultivators in Divine Elephant City widened and they nearly stopped breathing. The stands that were previously used to watch the Deer Cry banquet were now densely packed with soldiers of the Dingwa Marquis. In the hands of every soldier of the Dingwa Marquis army was a saber, held to the necks of the Dragon Soar Academy students. At the center of the grandstand, where the competition for the chief was held, blood had already flowed like a river. The ground was littered with corpses. Some of these corpses were wearing the uniform of the Marquis of Dingwa. But most of them were students and instructors of the Dragon Soar Academy. Following Chu Xinyan's order, the soldiers of the Dingwa Marquis in the first row of the grandstand raised their sabers. It was as if they had rehearsed it. One after another, neither fast nor slow, seamlessly connected. The students at the back could only watch helplessly as their classmates died, and then welcome their own death. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 29-20. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. That kind of fear and despair could not be described in words. Finally, someone could not help but break down and cry, wailing and begging for help. There were also people who desperately cursed. But no matter what they did, they could not save their lives. Blood splashed down from the stands and flowed into the center of Flying Dragon City. The blood river became deeper. The smell of blood in the air seemed to be able to completely engulf people's senses. "Stop! Stop! Stop!" Kong Yuanzhou's eyes were red. He clearly had no spiritual power left in his body, but he pounced over like a madman, wanting to perish together with the Dingwa Marquis. But under the siege of Miao Yu and Chu Xinyan, he was already like an arrow at the end of its flight and had no strength to fight anymore. At this moment, he was gently kicked by Miao Yu and rolled far away, unable to get up for a long time. "Bastards! You bastards!" Zhou Daoi, who was standing on the stands, roared hysterically with tears in his eyes. "Those are the students of Longting, the future hope of the cultivation continent. Kill them, you will suffer retribution, you will definitely suffer retribution." As soon as he finished shouting, he was kicked to the ground by the Dingwa Marquis, who stomped on his head several times. Poor Zhou Daoyi, a peak astral projection expert, was seriously injured and restrained by the immortal binding rope. He could only be slaughtered by a small soldier. All the cultivators in the square were scared out of their wits. Is the Dingwa Marquis crazy? This is Longting Academy. Those students all have status and background. Isn't he afraid of those families looking for trouble by killing them so recklessly? No, no. Look carefully, there are not many students here from the heavenly court. Most of them are teachers and students from the earth court and the human court. They are either extremely talented but have no background, or they only have a small sect behind them and can't afford to offend the Dingwa manor. Someone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even if these students and teachers don't have any background, they are still thousands of lives. Is the Dingwa Marquis going to kill them all? The Lan royal family and the families of the eastern continent will definitely not stand by and watch. Yes, the Lan royal family is so close, they will definitely rush over immediately. Shoo, stop talking. Do you want to die? Just as these people said. The moment Dragon Soar Academy's barrier was broken, the Lan royal family and the eastern continent's Su family received the news. Soon, Lan Feng and Su Qingling led a large group of cultivators to Divine Elephant City. However, before they could land, they were intercepted in midair. Patriarch Shui. Shrouded Sky Mansion's sect master. Seeing the two people intercepting them in the air, Lan Feng and Su Qingling's expressions changed. They had brought many people with them, but the strongest among them was only at leaving Aperture Realm Pinnacle. Two patriarchs at the crossing calamity stage were standing in their way. Lan Feng said in disbelief, "Old Master Shui, Sect Master Su, what is the meaning of this?" Su Qingling looked down at the Longting Academy and was even more furious. "Dingwa Ho, you actually dared to kill innocent people in a sacred place like the Longting Academy. Aren't you afraid of being despised by the people of the world?" Chu Xinyan sneered. Without even raising his head, he said indifferently, "You are not qualified to talk to this marquis. If you want to criticize me, get your Su family's old ancestor to come out." Su Qingling was furious. However, before she could speak, she heard the Shui family's old ancestor, Shui Minglang, speak loudly. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 29-21. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Longting harbored the unfettered 7 demons, allowing Jun Mayan to kill my Shui family's children and grandchildren. Dingwa Ho slaughtered Longting in order to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, to avenge my Shui family. What's wrong with me helping from the side? Lan Feng and Su Qingling were speechless. This was because the news of Jun Mayan killing Shui Huai and Shui Huailu, the 2 heirs of the Shui family, had already spread far and wide. The Shui family's old ancestors' hatred towards Jun Mayan can be imagined. The Shrouded Heaven Mansion's master, Su Qinkuan, also said faintly, "The unfettered 7 devils injured my only grandson, Su Yi, at the Dear Morn banquet, causing his internal injuries to relapse after he returned to the Shrouded Heaven Mansion, causing his body to explode." Longting harbored evil spirits and assisted the tyrant in his evil deeds. Dingwa Ho's action was to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and raise the prestige of the righteous path. What's wrong with that? Miao Yu giggled and said, "The previous Dingwa Prince Chu Tianyu was disobedient and unfilial. He killed his father and betrayed his ancestors. He is a sinner that cannot be tolerated by the heavens. Who would have thought that even this little bastard, Longting, would want to protect him?" He even arrogantly declared that if the Dingwa Marquis had the ability, he could take down the entire Longting. Isn't the Marquis here to fulfill your wishes?" As Miao Yu spoke, his eyes turned to look at the cultivators on the square. "Everyone, what qualifications do you think a dirty place like the Soaring Dragon's sect has to become the holy land of the World College? The Marquis of Dingwa slaughtered them and helped you get rid of the scum. Shouldn't this be something to celebrate?" He he he. The square fell into a dead silence. Many people knew that was not the case. Most of the students and mentors of the Dragon Ascension Academy were innocent. How could such an indiscriminate massacre be worthy of celebration? How could he say that it was a righteous act? Moreover, the Unfettered Seven and Chu Tianyu were all familiar names to the cultivators of Divine Elephant City. Could these people really be deranged demons? But no matter how angry and doubtful they were, in the face of Chu Xinyan's power, they did not dare to refute. Lan Feng and Su Qingling looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Especially Lan Feng, at this moment, monstrous waves were surging in his heart, and he was both terrified and regretful. He had never thought that in less than a month's time, the strength of the Dingguo Marquis household would expand to such an extent. He sect, the Shrouded Heaven Mansion, and the Shui family had all become his minions. Even Miao Yu, Shui Minglang, and Su Qiankuan, these three transcending tribulation supreme experts, actually listened to his orders. If he were to wait until he massacred Dragon Soar Academy and killed Kong Yuanzhou today, Chu Xinyan's ambition could no longer be suppressed by anyone. However, no matter how anxious he was, what could he do? Not to mention that he and Su Qingling came in a hurry and did not even summon the tribulation-passing ancestor. Even if the Lan Imperial clan and the Su clan's tribulation-passing ancestors rushed over, they might not be a match for Chu Xinyan. Other than watching Longting fall into despair, there was nothing else they could do. Kong Yuanzhou looked at Su Qingling and Lan Feng, who were blocked outside the Divine Elephant City, the remaining light in his eyes slowly extinguished. He did not hesitate to perish together with the enemy, expending his primordial spirit to break through the barrier and send out a cry for help. But he did not expect that Chu Xinyan had already arranged a backup plan. At this moment, Longting was like a fish on the chopping block. He no longer had any hope of survival. He knew that Longting was finished. He, Kong Yuanzhou, would definitely die today. Chu Xinyan looked at Kong Yuanzhou's expression and smiled lightly. How is it, Elder Kong should give up now, right? Think about it. The lives of thousands of people in Longting can't be compared to the whereabouts of Yap Liangchen. For mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 29-22. Chu Xinyan used his spirit energy to condense his voice and send it into Kong Yuanzhou's ears. As long as you tell me the whereabouts of Yi Liangchen and that unfilial son, I guarantee that the remaining students and teachers will be able to live. In the future, Dragon Soaring Academy will still be the #1 academy on the cultivation continent. Kong Yuanzhou closed his eyes. 2 streams of tears washed away the blood stains on his face. He opened his eyes and said in a hoarse voice, I don't know Yi Liangchen's identity. She was the Emperor's fiancée. Even if he betrayed the world, he would never betray the Emperor. Apart from him, everyone else in Dragon Soaring was restricted by the 6 Stars Order. Once they revealed their identity as the Lord of 6 Stars, they would explode and die. Just like Su Qiankuan's grandson, Su Yi, who had exploded and died. Chu Xinyan's expression turned cold. He didn't expect that Kong Yuanzhou would still refuse to reveal Yi Liangchen's identity. Good, very good. It looks like you really want all the teachers and students of Dragon Soaring to die. Do you really want the 1,000-year dragon soar to be annihilated today? Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Chu Xinyan waved his hand and said coldly, continue killing. Kill until someone is willing to speak. The Dingguo army obeyed and raised the butcher's knife in their hands again. In an instant, blood swords flew and screams filled the air. Finally, there were some students and teachers who, upon seeing this scene of slaughter, could no longer bear it. With a plop, they knelt down and begged, we surrender, we are willing to pledge allegiance to Marquis Ding, please spare us. With the first person taking the lead, more and more teachers and students knelt down and kowtowed. Chu Xinyan seemed to find this scene interesting. He raised his hand and made a pause gesture. You want to join the Dingguo army? Yes. Yes. We're willing to serve the Marquis. Please give us a chance. Some of the strong-willed people were shocked and angry when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but curse. Su Tsong, you ungrateful scum. Dragon Soaring Academy treats you so well. He knows your family is poor and even gave you free tuition to cultivate. Is this how you repay me, you bastard? Jia Zhani, didn't we agree to be soaring dragons, men in life and ghosts in death? How could you do such a shameless thing? The traitorous cultivators who were insulted either flew into a rage out of humiliation or shrank their heads in silence. Miao Yu also seemed to find it interesting and giggled. You want to join the Dingwa Marquis army with empty promises? You should at least show some sincerity. The people kneeling on the ground looked at each other. Suddenly, someone stood up, snatched the knife from the soldier's hand, and chopped off the head of the student who was cursing fiercely just now. Ah! Su Tsong, you animal. The student called Su Tsong wiped the blood off his face and grinned. How could we trouble the Dingwa Marquis army with such a trivial matter? Let us do it. There's one more thing. I don't know if I can make up for my mistake by saying it, so that I'll be qualified to serve the Marquis in the future. Chu Xinyan raised his eyebrows. What is it? Say it. Su Tsong lowered his head and bowed. In these past few months, this lowly one has seen Chu Tianyu in Dragon Soaring Academy. Moreover, the day before the Marquis came, this lowly one saw Elder Kong and sent him into Elder Kong's private seclusion room. Whether he came out afterwards, this lowly one doesn't know. Chapter 29-23. Su Tsong. Kong Yuanzhou, Zhou Daoyi, and Chu Zongsheng roared in unison. Chu Xinyan chuckled. Not bad, the information you provided is very useful. From now on, you will follow this Marquis. Thank you, Marquis. Thank you, Marquis. Su Tsong knelt on the ground, overjoyed. Chu Xinyan had already waved for Miao Yu to take people to the back of the mountain. Elder Kong is really a good strategist. Chu Xinyan sneered and said, you hid him in your secret chamber, and then fought with us in the secret chamber. You were blinded by a single leaf. We would never have thought that that unfilial son was actually hiding in the cave. Kong Yuanzhou closed his eyes, his heart dead. It was he who sealed Chu Tianyu's acupoints and hid him in the secret room. At that time, he thought that he could escape. When Chu Xinyan left, Chu Tianyu could still send a message to Mu Yan, telling them not to return to Longteng. But who knew that he couldn't escape? Not a single one could escape. Not long after, Chu Tianyu was brought over. His expression was surprisingly calm. There was no fear or panic on his face, nor was there any solemnity of facing death. Even when Miao Yu was boldly teasing him, he turned a blind eye to it and walked straight to Chu Xinyan. Chu Xinyan looked at the handsome young man in front of him, blue veins popping on his forehead. His eyes flashed with deep jealousy and greed. Unfilial son, kneel for me. Chu Xinyan shouted, and a terrifying pressure surged towards Chu Tianyu like it could topple mountains and overturn the seas. He thought that his son would kneel and beg for mercy like before, trembling. However, what surprised him was that Chu Tianyu was forced by the pressure of a tribulation cultivator. His face was pale, and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. But his expression was surprisingly calm, and there was even a mocking smile in his eyes as he looked at Chu Xinyan. Unfilial son? Dingwa Ho, really, must be joking. When did you think of me as your son? You're raising me because you want to use my essence, blood and nascent soul to prolong your life. Even under such overwhelming pressure, Chu Tianyu still said the words that had been hidden in his heart for decades, word by word. Chu Xinyan flew into a rage. He swung his hand and ruthlessly slapped him, sending him flying. Chu Tianyu's body was in midair, and he had already spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with shattered organs. However, before his body could land on the ground, an invisible force had already grabbed him by the throat and dragged him back to Chu Xinyan. At this time, Chu Xinyan had completely lost the patience to ask nicely. He gripped Chu Tianyu's throat tightly and asked while gritting his teeth, "Who is Yi Liangqin's true identity?" Chu Tianyu forced a sneer at the corner of his mouth. He used all the strength in his body to raise his voice, saying word by word, "Chu Xinyan, 100 years ago, you old bastard, should have died from the exhaustion of your lifespan. All these years, you relied on devouring the blood essence and primordial spirit of your own flesh and blood, to prolong your feeble existence. Dreaming in the middle of the night, aren't you afraid that my brothers and sisters will come to take your life? Chu Xinyan, evil creature, you still dare to spout nonsense?" I'm spouting nonsense?" Chu Tianyu laughed in a low voice. Suddenly, he turned his head and bit Chu Xinyan's sleeve with his teeth. He did not care that his neck was in Chu Xinyan's hand, and fiercely pulled. With a tearing sound, a piece of Chu Xinyan's sleeve was torn off, revealing the wrinkled skin of Chu Xinyan's hand. Chapter 29-24. The people in the square who see this scene all suck in a mouthful of cold air. The wrinkled, withered skin on Chu Xinyan's hand isn't scary. What's scary is that these dry and cracked wrinkles form a sharp contrast with his elegant and noble face that doesn't have the slightest trace of aging. Chu Tianyu laughs lowly. Ha, ha ha, everyone, do you see, this is Chu Xinyan's true face. He's the real devil, you're courting death. Chu Xinyan roars, black energy surging from his hand. Disregarding everything, he wants to directly suck Chu Tianyu dry in front of everyone. But just then, there's a loud noise in the distance. Faintly, there seems to be a roar. "Jun Mayan, let's see where you can run to." This shout immediately draws everyone's attention to the northern sky. Even Chu Xinyan stopped what he was doing and looked up. On the contrary, the pupils of Chu Tianyu and Kong Yuanzhou suddenly shrink, their eyes filled with fear. Why would Jun Mayan come to Divine Elephant City? How could she come to Divine Elephant City at this time? However, at this very moment, the development of the situation is already beyond anyone's control. In the blink of an eye, a seven-colored stream of light whistles over from the distant sky, hovering over the square. This time, the entire Divine Elephant City is in an uproar. Jun Mayan? Is she crazy? Why would she come to Divine Elephant City? Could it be that she wants to ask Longting Academy for help? But doesn't she know that Longting can't even protect itself right now? The seven-colored cloud carpet slowly descends in the center of the square. The cultivators who were originally standing there retreat again and again, holding their breaths as they watch the scene in front of them. They only feel that everything that happened today is like a stormy sea, full of twists and turns. The young girl in fluttering black clothes slowly walks down from the seven-colored cloud carpet. The sunlight falls on her flawless snow-white skin, as if it was plated with a layer of porcelain white light. Her peerless appearance is unreservedly displayed in front of everyone. It makes people's breathing and souls seem to be snatched away in an instant. Miao Yu's charming and moving appearance seems so tacky in front of her. Even the disdainful imposing manner that Chu Xinyan just created, "Those who submit will prosper, those who oppose will perish," seems to have been washed away by the peerless elegance at this moment. This is the unique, fatally beautiful killing god, Jun Mayan. Only one person and one zither were needed to dominate the world. Miao Yu's eyes flashed with jealousy, but he quickly chuckled. "Little girl, you really have some guts. There are so many people waiting to capture you, yet you still dare to appear in Divine Elephant City in broad daylight? What? Do you think you can still find Dragon Soaring Academy to back you up?" Ha ha ha. Mayan doesn't even spare Miao Yu a glance. She goes to Sun Yuanzhou's side first, and raises her hand to stuff a pill into his mouth. Then, he slowly walked towards Chu Xinyan. Chu Tianyu, who was held in Chu Xinyan's palm, trembled. He muttered over and over again, "Don't come over, don't care about me. I beg you," but he couldn't make a sound, nor did he dare to make a sound, lest he arouse Chu Xinyan's suspicions. He could only let the tears of blood fall from his eyes. Chu Xinyan looked at the young girl who was walking towards him with great interest. His eyes could not help but slightly narrow. A year ago, this girl was just a Jindan stage cultivator who had just made a name for herself at the Dear Cry banquet. Yet, he was already a leaving aperture expert. Even Chu Xinyan had to be wary of the aura he emitted. Chapter 29-25. How did this little girl advance in such a short time? If he could let her give birth to his own bloodline and then harvest her essence, blood and primordial spirit, wouldn't it be just around the corner for him to transcend the tribulation and ascend? Thinking of this, Chu Xinyan's eyes shone with a fiery and greedy light. However, he had always been very shrewd. Even if he was thinking in his heart, he would not show it on his face. Seeing Mayan approaching, he chuckles, "June Mayan, I didn't expect that you wouldn't take the road to heaven when there's a road to heaven, but instead, you cleverly barged into hell when there's no door. Guards! Capture this demoness for this marquis. This marquis will bring her back to the Dingwa Manor and torture her every day to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens." Su Qiankuan laughed and cupped his hands. "The marquis is wise and valiant, upholding justice. You should be a role model for us cultivators." Hee hee. Miao Yu points at the 7-colored cloud carpet and smiles, "Marquis, don't forget that there are still the minions of the 6 demons and Mayan inside. We can't let any of these people go." Chu Xinyan looks at Mayan with a proud smile, "June Mayan, this ho sees that your steps are weak and your Dantian spiritual power has been almost consumed. You must have just escaped from being hunted down and it must not be good, right? This marquis advises you to obediently allow yourself to be captured. Otherwise, don't blame this marquis for not showing mercy to you." Before he could finish his words, Mu Yen suddenly raises her hand. The Tian Mo Qin flies to the sky, and several Qin blades shoot out. Chu Xinyan didn't care about this attack at all. He threw Chu Tianyu to Miao Yu and was about to counterattack. Who would have thought that halfway through the throw, the zither blade in the air would make a turn and fly towards Chu Tianyu. The moment it touched Chu Tianyu, the sharp zither blade turned into a zither string and wrapped around Chu Tianyu, directly dragging him to Mu Yan's side. Chu Tianyu fell heavily to the ground, and the bones in his body seemed to have fallen apart. But he didn't seem to feel any pain at all. He just stared blankly at the girl in front of him. Mayan takes out a young returning pill and feeds it to him, saying in a low voice, "Help Elder Kong onto the flowing cloud carpet." Chu Tianyu acted as if he didn't hear it and said absent-mindedly, "You. Why did you come? Do you know how dangerous this place is? Why did he risk his life to save her in such a dangerous situation?" Mu Yen did not answer his question, but repeated the order she had just given. Chu Tianyu closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he had already restrained all his emotions. "Yes," he answered, got up, helped Kong Yuanjiu up, and stepped onto the 7-colored cloud carpet. "Trying to run? Do you think you can run away?" Su Qiankuan roared, and the long sword in his hand flew out. The flying sword of a tribulation transcending Almighty, even if it was casually used, would definitely be a treasure above the 9th rank. Ordinary flying carpets would definitely be torn into pieces if they were struck by the sword. At that time, the people above would have nowhere to hide. However, the flying sword that was infused with 70% of Su Qiankuan's power only caused the protective shield above the flying carpet to tremble before it bounced back. When Su Qiankuan grasped the sword, he was forced to take 2 steps back. His first reaction was to exclaim, "This is impossible. How could his 9th grade flying sword not be able to cut a mere flying magic treasure into pieces?" Earlier, everyone's attention was attracted by June Mayan. Now, some people cast their gazes on the flying carpet that was emitting a 7-colored radiance. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why do I feel that this flying carpet is so similar to Tianguang Ruin's treasure, the flowing cloud carpet? Chapter 29-26. No, that's not right, right? Wasn't the rainbow cloud carpet the prize for the Heavenly Light Grand Finals? Shouldn't it be in God Ye's hands? There have always been rumors that the relationship between Great God Yi and the Xiao Yao's 7 sons is very good. Could it be that this rainbow cloud carpet was given to Mayan by Great God Yi? Bah, who does Jun Mayan think she is? Is she worthy of our Great God Yi giving her the rainbow cloud carpet? Jun Mayan is a sinister and cunning demon. She was able to steal Mu Le Pavilion's artifact and inheritance. It's hard to say that she didn't steal this 7-colored cloud carpet from Great God Yi. Previously, Ling Qingwan had pretended to be Jun Mayan and caused a huge enmity between Liang Chen's army and Qing Cheng's army. As soon as the supporters of both sides met, they fought like black-eyed chickens. However, at this time, with Chu Xinyan, Miao Yu, and the others present, they didn't dare to fight openly. They could only secretly debate. Mu Yan, who is standing on the side, doesn't know whether to laugh or cry when she hears their quarrel. Back in the Tianguang ruins, she had already witnessed the tension between the Liangchen army and the Qingqing army. He didn't expect it to be even more noisy in the real world than in the Tianguang ruins. She composed herself and looked at the teachers and students of Longteng who were captured in Flying Dragon City. His line of sight slowly turned and landed on the 2 towering towers, one on the east and one on the west, facing each other from a distance. There was only one chance. She must seize this opportunity. Chu Xinyan suddenly narrowed his eyes and said faintly, Jun Mayan, do you know who Yi Liangchen is? Mu Yan hooks up her lips. Of course she knew who Yap Liangchen was. Was there anyone who knew Yap Liangchen better than her? However, before she could say anything, the powerful aura in the distance had already approached like a bolt of lightning. Mu Yan's pupils shrink. She knew that Ning Su and the Northerners had caught up. Indeed, Ning Su and Jing Tianyi landed in Divine Elephant City moments later. Before his feet touched the ground, the demon-slaying sword was unsheathed. The bone-piercing killing intent is like an inescapable net, firmly enveloping Mayan and the 7-colored cloud carpet behind her. Ning Su hovered in midair, his crimson eyes fixed on the young girl in green. I've found you. On the road, Mayan has just condensed a bit of spiritual power in her dantian. At this moment, it began to operate without regard for anything else. Stunning lotus steps, activated. Her figure turned into a ghost and retreated towards the Flying Dragon City. The rainbow cloud carpet seemed to have a mind of its own as it immediately followed her. Ning Su's long hair and robes fluttered despite the lack of wind. He activated his consciousness and the demon-slaying sword instantly changed its direction. A bone-chilling voice, carrying a chilling killing intent, resounds between heaven and earth. Jun Mayan, do you think you can escape? Swish. The demon-slaying sword suddenly split into countless swords in the air and ruthlessly chopped down towards Flying Dragon City. In an instant, it was as if the sky was raining swords. The soldiers of the North-ranking Marquis, who had been controlling the students and teachers of the Soaring Dragon Academy, had not expected such an unexpected disaster to befall them, and were scared out of their wits. They kicked away the teachers and students of Longting Academy, stepped on them, and ran away as if they were fleeing. As for the students and teachers of the Soaring Dragon sect who were left behind, they were either heavily injured or bound by the immortal binding rope. They had no strength to escape at all. They could only fall to the ground and watch helplessly as the rain of swords fell from the sky and cut them into mincemeat. However, just as they closed their eyes in despair, the expected pain and death did not come. Instead, their bodies seemed to be pulled by a force, rising rapidly. Zhou Daoyi opened his eyes in a daze, only to discover that he had already fallen onto the 7-colored cloud carpet. He abruptly turned his head, not having the time to clearly see what had happened. Chapter 29-27. They heard a loud rumble from below. Flying Dragon City was completely destroyed. Some of the North-ranking Marquis' troops who didn't have time to escape were directly crushed into meat paste by the rain of swords. The smell of blood in the air was getting stronger and stronger. So strong that it made people nauseous, so strong that it made people despair. Zhou Daoi seemed to realize something at this time, his eyes widening little by little. It was Jun Mayan who saved them, using deadly young Master Ning Su's demon-slaying sword to let the north-ranking Marquis troops loosen their grip. But in this way, Ning Su's sword, which could shock the heavens and the earth and make ghosts and gods weep, would be completely endured by Jun Mayan alone. Miss June was already seriously injured. How could she still bear it? Jun Mayan. A mournful cry came from behind. Chu Tianyu pounced over like a madman, as if he wanted to throw himself out of the seven-colored cloud carpet. However, the protective cover around the flying carpet blocked him. Even if there was no one to control it, this rank 9 flying magic tool was still faithfully fulfilling its duty. Let me out, do you hear me? As the saying goes, a man doesn't easily shed tears. But at this time, Chu Tianyu's face was full of tears, like a madman, bombarding the protective cover with spiritual power again and again. Jun Mayan, you fool. I've harmed you. Why did you take the risk to save me? These people are not related to you, they even treat you as a demon. Why did you risk your life to save them? They all say that you're a deadly god of death, they all say that you're a demoness, but in this world, is there a demoness who would abandon herself for others? The youth's voice was hoarse, as if he was weeping blood, his low roar resounded in the air, heartbreaking. Everyone on the seven-colored cloud carpet had tears in their eyes. Great God June, saved us. I thought I was dead, I thought that no one cared about our lives. Great God June, she was clearly in danger, but she still risked her life to save us. How could such a person be a demon? Xiao Ai rushed to the seven-colored cloud carpet, pointed at Ning Su and cried, Fairy's sister is a good person, why did you kill her? Scoundrel, why did you kill her? I hate you, I hate all of you. Ning Su retracted his demon-slaying sword and stared blankly at the collapsed flying dragon city. After a long while, a twisted smile appeared on his face. His hoarse voice seemed to be convincing himself and others at the same time, evil demons deserve to be killed. You asked for it. Jun Mayan, you brought this upon yourself. Jing Tianyi smiled and turned his gaze towards the seven-colored cloud carpet. He said unhurriedly, that demoness Jun Mayan is dead, but the remaining 6 unfettered demons are still alive. Are you going to obediently hand him over now, or do you want to die with them? Rainbow cloud carpet, let's go. Leave immediately. When Huang Lang roared, before Miss June left the drifting cloud carpet, she instructed me to protect her fellow disciples no matter what. Sure enough, the seven-colored cloud carpet listened to Huang Lang's orders. He immediately flew into the distance. Jing Tianyi sneered and soared into the sky. At some point in time, he was holding a bell in his hand, and he threw it at the colorful cloud carpet. Bang! A dazzling light exploded in the air. The bell flew out and fell back into Jing Tianyi's hand. On the other side, the girl with the Tian Mo Qin floated in the air, her black robe fluttering in the wind. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Her black robe had long been stained with dust, and one of her arms hung down powerlessly, showing an irregular distortion. Chapter 29-28. The dress on the lower part of her body is completely soaked in blood, turning crimson. At this time, the girl is so miserable, so battered, but she truly blocked Ning Su's deadly rain of swords, and also blocked Jing Tianyi's thunderous strike. Everyone in Divine Elephant City raised their heads, watching this scene in a daze, as if they had become stupid. June. Mu. Yen, Chu Tianyu hisses out these 3 words, and his body can no longer support itself. He weakly collapses on the cloud carpet, tears flowing down majestically. The others behind him burst into thunderous roars after a moment of shock. It's Great God June is still alive. Madame Enchantress, boo-hoo, great Madame Enchantress didn't die. It's not just the people on the cloud carpet who are going crazy with joy. Even the fallen troops in the divine elephant city forgot where they were, and were about to go crazy. I'll go go go. That's young Master Jueming's Shirkill's sword. Great God, June actually blocked it. Rescuing Master Longtang from thousands of soldiers and horses, two high-level transcending tribulation cultivators couldn't do anything to her. Heavens, what kind of deity do I like? Azure blue-purple cloud, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Woodfern dominates, Fusang massacres the city. Who dares to contend with alluring city? Ah, the person I like is really the best and strongest in the world. The faces of Liang Chen's army are very unsightly. Who dares to contend with alluring city? Isn't this clearly trampling their great god Yi underfoot? But June Mayan's performance just now is too amazing. So amazing that everyone completely forgot that she's just a young girl in her early 20s. So amazing that everyone doesn't care whether she's a demon or not. Even if they want to refute, they can't even say half a word. But for them to admit that their idol is inferior to others, that's worse than death. Scoundrel. If their great god Yi comes out at this time, he will certainly amaze everyone, completely suppressing this June Mayan's radiance. On the other side, at this moment, the big shots, including Chu Xinyan, no longer have time to pay attention to them. Everyone's eyes fall on Mayan. Their eyes were filled with shock, astonishment, jealousy, and greed. The young girl in front of them had completely subverted their understanding of cultivators' talents and ranks. A young lady in her early 20s and a young cultivator who had just advanced to the leaving aperture stage less than half a month ago. He had actually withstood Ning Su's fatal blow. This was even more shocking and unbelievable than her killing the great elder of Mu Le Pavilion. The higher one's position was, the more they knew the identity and background of young Master Suicide Su. Just how high was his cultivation? Over the past 100 years, there have been many powerful devil cultivators on the cultivation continent. Some of them had even reached large success of the devil body and were only a step away from leaving the 6 paths of samsara and ascending to the immortal continent. But these powerful demonic cultivators had all died at Ning Su's hands. They didn't even have the ability to resist. Ning Su's gaze is firmly fixed on Mu Yan. Seeing her fly out of the ruins alive, Ning Su's eyes were filled with killing intent, but more than that, it was as he had expected. Jun Shiyuan and Ning Yanxin's daughter, the only person he, Ning Su, cared about in this world. How could she die so easily? But that's fine too. Just letting her be buried in the ruins, how could it relieve the pain and unease in his heart? The demon-slaying sword is slowly raised, pointing at the young girl in front of him. Chapter 29-29. Only by sending his sword into Mayan's heart with his own hands and taking her life could he resolve the bone-deep hatred of being betrayed and abandoned over and over again. Chu Xinyan had unknowingly walked to Ning Su's side and chuckled, "Master Jueming, this witch Mayan is very cunning and has countless tricks up her sleeves. If we're not careful, she'll escape. I think it would be better for us to join hands and capture her first. What do you think?" In the end, Chu Xinyan couldn't bear to part with Mayan's good talent and appearance. It would be too much of a pity to die in Ning Su's hands like this. Ning Su coldly looked at Chu Xinyan, his eyes full of disgust. "Get lost." Before he finished speaking, the demon-slaying sword swept across and sent Chu Xinyan flying. Chu Xinyan didn't expect Ning Su to suddenly turn hostile. He fell from the sky, crashing into the ruins of Flying Dragon City. It took him a long time to get up. "Marquis, are you all right?" Chu Xinyan shook off the man who came to help him up and looked at Ning Su in the air with malicious eyes. His eyes seemed to be dipped in poison. Ning Su waved Chu Xinyan away, not stopping at all. His figure and the demon-slaying sword became one as he attacked Mayan. Mayan's reaction speed was also very fast. The moment Chu Xinyan was sent flying, she retreated into the rainbow cloud carpet. When the demon-slaying sword attacked, the rainbow cloud carpet was already flying towards the west. However, Ning Su and the demon-slaying sword were too fast. Before the carpet could fly far, it was hit by the demon-slaying sword. Bang! A loud noise came from the sky. The rainbow glow that shrouded the cloud carpet flickered violently, and then it began to crack little by little. The flying carpet that carried the lives of tens of thousands of people was also on the verge of collapse. Standing on the carpet, Mayan spat out another mouthful of blood. Her body swayed and her eyes almost slackened. Miss June Mayan. Chu Tianyu rushed forward to support her. How are you? Oh no, look at the rainbow cloud carpet. A villager of Yuanwu village screamed, pointing at the carpet under his feet. Everyone looked down and found that the 7 colors of the carpet were becoming fainter and fainter. Many of the originally complicated patterns on the carpet had broken and disappeared. The rainbow cloud carpet is about to be destroyed. What do we do? Are we all going to die? Once the 7-colored cloud carpet was destroyed, the thousands of them and the living corpses would have nowhere to run. At this moment, Ning Su's second thunderous strike arrived once again. Mu Yen firmly bites the tip of her tongue, using the pain to clear her mind. She mobilizes the remaining spiritual power in her body and injects it into the flowing rainbow cloud carpet. The rainbow cloud carpet, which was on the verge of shattering, continued to fly toward the west as fast as lightning after receiving the infusion of spiritual power. However, the direction that the rainbow cloud carpet was facing was not the unobstructed sea and sky. Instead, it was the towering chaotic tower that pierced through the clouds. Crap! The 7-colored flowing cloud carpet is going to crash into the chaotic tower. Has the great god June lost the ability to control the 7-colored cloud carpet? Could it be that she doesn't know that any living being that bumps into the chaotic tower will be crushed by the defensive barrier surrounding the chaotic tower? Over the past year, the heaven-defying effects of the chaotic pagoda had become more and more familiar to the cultivators of the world. Most of the cultivators that entered and exited the Divine Elephant City every day were there to cultivate in the chaotic tower. Some sects had even moved their entire sects to the vicinity of the Divine Elephant City in order to cultivate more capable disciples in the chaotic tower. One might as well ask, how could there not be people who would want to snatch such a treasure that everyone coveted like ducks? Chapter 29:30. In reality, there were already people who had designs on the chaotic tower, including Chu Xinyan. However, the final result disappointed them. Because no one could break the defense of the chaotic tower, and no one could break the formation at the entrance of the chaotic tower. Furthermore, as long as it was attacked from the outside, the outer barrier of the chaotic tower would backfire and crush everything around it. It's going to crash. It's going to crash. Hurry, let's push it away. Stay away from the chaotic tower. Boo-hoo, God June, someone go save God June. In the sky, the flowing cloud carpet, which was emitting a rainbow-colored radiance, directly collided with the chaotic tower. The demon-slaying sword arrived at the same time. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Ning Su did not even have time to get close to the chaotic tower before he felt a tsunami of energy sweeping towards him. He only had time to grab the demon-slaying sword that was bounced back, before he was sent flying. Ning Su spun a few times in the air before he barely managed to stabilize himself. The demon-slaying sword in his hand let out a wail, before it slowly quietened down. Evidently, the demon-slaying sword had suffered heavy damage from the energy attack just now. Ning Su was shocked. He did not expect that there would be such a powerful treasure on a mere cultivation path. However, before he could think about what exactly this chaotic pagoda was, a voice rang out. He realized that the entire Divine Elephant City had fallen into an eerie, deathly silence. Ning Su was startled, feeling something in his heart as he turned to look. What he saw was the colorful cloud carpet that had landed steadily on the top of the chaotic tower and a beautiful girl with long black hair and fluttering green clothes standing on the top of the tower. What is going on? Even Sir Jueming was bounced back by the chaotic tower. Why Why is June Mayan standing on the chaotic tower? No, it's not just June Mayan. It's the entire flowing rainbow cloud carpet. Everyone on the flowing rainbow cloud carpet has entered the chaotic tower. Damn it, am I seeing things? Why didn't the chaotic tower kill these people? Why didn't the chaotic tower chase them out? What kind of people would not be chased out even after entering the chaotic tower? What kind of people could do whatever they wanted, and let anyone they wanted enter the chaotic tower? The whispers grew louder and louder. There was a crazy and unimaginable idea fermenting in their minds until it was out of control. Chu Xinyan suddenly stood up from the ruins of the flying dragon city, his eyes staring straight at the young girl standing in the prehistoric tower. His eyes grew wider and wider. Someone opened his mouth, his lips trembling, wanting to voice out the speculation in his heart. However, there was a voice that was faster, louder, and more shocking than them, exploding in everyone's ears. The ground suddenly shook violently. Then, blue, silver, green, purple, yellow, and red lights mixed together like a rainbow, shot out from 6 different directions of the divine elephant city, forming a huge ball of light in the air before exploding loudly. The skies above the Dragon Soar Academy, which had been dyed in blood into a hell, suddenly exploded with fireworks at this moment, as dazzling as the heavens of a golden age. A familiar, deep, and ancient voice resounded in the heavens and the earth. 1,000 years have passed, and the universe is boundless. Mysterious heaven appears, yin and yang fall into chaos. The dragon soars into the heavens, the jade blood at its heart. The 6 stars gather, the king descends. We respectfully welcome the arrival of the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangchen. Chapter 29:31. Dead silence. The entire divine elephant city fell into dead silence. A moment later, the artifact spirit's voice rang out again. Lord of 6 Stars, may I ask if you wish to take back the rights to use the chaotic tower and 6 Stars pagoda? Under the watchful eyes of tens of thousands. On the chaotic tower, the green-clothed, blood-stained girl spat out 2 simple words: withdraw. Holy shit. Liang Chendajuan, fuck 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 fuck. The ancient voice laughed absent-mindedly. It was filled with gratification, anticipation, and a trace of nostalgia. I respectfully invite the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangchen, to receive the chaotic tower and the 6 Stars pagoda. At this point, this old man's mission in the cultivation continent has been completed. I will now retire and return to the cultivation continent. Lord of 6 Stars, please take care of yourself and ascend to the immortal world as soon as possible. I will wait for you at the cloud summit of heaven and earth. As soon as he finished speaking, the divine elephant city shook violently again. The 6-star pagoda in the east seemed to be uprooted by a huge force, swaying as it flew towards the girl on top of the chaotic pagoda. A huge shadow shrouded the dumbfounded crowd below. Even when the dust on the 6 stars pagoda fell down and hit their faces, these people did not react at all. As they get closer, the huge 6-star pagoda becomes smaller and smaller, until it becomes the size of a palm, and Mayan puts it into her sleeve. Her body swayed, and her vision blurred. She almost couldn't stand steadily. Mu Yan knows that this time, her injuries are very, very serious. It was not something that could be recovered in a day. Entering the divine elephant city was like stepping into a real dragon's pool and tiger's den. The slightest carelessness would lead to eternal damnation. But fortunately, she won the bet. At the same time, Yi Liangchen couldn't hide her identity anymore. Sure enough, after a brief moment of absent-mindedness, the entire divine elephant city was boiling. No. They were going crazy. Especially the Liangchen army, and the city-toppling army. Just 2 hours ago, they were still arguing over who was more powerful between Yi Liangchen and June Mayan. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the supporters of both sides were enemies. But now, the 6 Stars Pagoda's artifact spirit was clearly telling them. Yi Liangchen and June Mayan are the same person? Had they gone mad, or had the world gone mad? Some of Liangchen's soldiers couldn't help but fly up to the sky and ask loudly, Jun. Jun Mayan, are you really Yi Liangchen? Mayan nods. The Yi Liangchen who slaughtered the Ling Long, Nirvana, and Ling Xiao lists? It's me. The Yi Liangchen who became the champion of flourishing Heavenly Lights finals as a talisman master? It's me. More and more Liang Chen's army flew up and asked questions one after another with trembling voices. The one who slaughtered the Dragon Ascension 6 lists, trampled all the young talents at the Dear Morn banquet, and became the unprecedented Lord of 6 stars, Yi Liangchen? It's me. Yi Liangchen, the one who obtained the unique inheritance of the sacred ancestor Herb King, slaughtered all 4 ranks of the alchemy competition, and made a king pellet in the alchemy competition? It's me. A female cultivator took a step forward, her eyes filled with tears as she sobbed, the one who can clearly refine the most expensive talismans and pellets in the world, but insists on selling them to Liangchen's army at a low price. The one who always stands up for us when we are wronged and bullied. The best Gaji in the world, is it really, you? The corner of Mayan's mouth, without a trace of blood, slowly hooks up, it's me. I am Jun Mayan, and also Yi Liangchen. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.